What'd you get at Tim's?
Just a French vanilla. I was supposed to get my mom a fucking.
It's the whole Wakanda Forever BS. Like, oh, you can be a black supremacist, you can be a black nationalist, and that's totally fine. But if you're a white person that takes honor in your heritage or your culture.
Okay, holy fuck. Shut up. I was fucking retarded. Let me just vent real quick, okay? So episode 3 is supposed to come out on whatever, Thursday, Friday, whenever it is. We live in Toronto, one of probably a handful of big, like popular cities in the country. I read that, it's supposed to be an AVX and, 40X in some areas. No showings in the GTA have AVX. It's either regular, D-Box, or VIP, which regular is okay, but it's nothing special. And I read on Reddit in a forum that people are buying their tickets for AVX in Vancouver. I'm like, bro, what the fuck?
So wait, what's the main difference with regular, VIP, and AVX?
Well, AVX is basically IMAX, so it's a bigger screen, it's better sound, better visuals. And for episode 3, like, you want that better visual and better sound and that bigger screen.
And that's the one where they fight on Mustafar?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see why.
Not even that, dude. The opening fucking scene with the drums and the song for like a minute and a half. Oh my god. And then I called and they were like, "Oh, if the website shows that showing, that's all we have." And I'm like, "Dude, you're telling me that you're not gonna update the shit in the next?"
Who'd you call?
Cineplex. What is it, like the support number, I guess.
Oh. So what, you're not gonna go to it now?
I'm gonna go to it, but I was planning on going twice, but now I guess if it's only in regular, I'll probably just go see it once.
Well, you're gonna watch it twice?
I was, if it was in AVX.
Why?
Just to see it twice.
Culture? Well, you're just a Nazi, a white supremacist, a horrible domestic terrorist, and you need to be neutralized and jailed forever. Right? Well, the hypocrisy.
How much does regular cost?
It's got to be exposed, because when you end up in situations like this, yeah, and there's all these black people all over social media. All these black people, literally, I'll play the clips, making it about race. Everything these people do is always about race. It's all they care about. So this situation, yes, is about race. It's evil. There's a sin issue from a biblical Christian perspective. Yes, there is a sin, evil, biblical issue here at hand of murder, of violence, and being attracted to that which is attacking the innocent. Okay. However, at the same time, there's clearly a race of people in this country that are attracted to violence more than other races, that glorify it, that monetize it, that reward it, that encourage it. Oh, that's racist to say, Drew. It's fine. Say whatever the hell you want. I don't care. How many times have I heard that in my career at this point? I don't give a damn. Like, I literally, look where we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, look where we are.
What other like old movies do they usually play?
And look where this keeps going.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't.
Well, it's got to be addressed. And if you're unwilling to address it, it's never going to change.
But apparently they had the other prequel movies.
And they don't want to change. It's the same reason so-called the first black president of the United States didn't do a damn thing for the black community when he was president for 8 years. Well, kind of progress was really made? What kind of change did black people really get and really have when the first black president, Barack Obama, was in the White House for 8 years? What did you really get?
How big is the screen for regular?
Nothing. And that's all they care about.
I'd say like underwhelmingly small, and the sound it's quiet. Like you could probably have a conversation while shit's playing.
Well, I guess it's time for you to drive to Vancouver. If you're a true fan of Star Wars, it's no issue.
Nice.
Why not, dude? Just live in your car.
Yeah, I ain't driving my car that far. No way.
Do you think it'll break down?
Probably.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't want to put that mileage on it.
Oh fuck! Buy a plane ticket. So you end up watching the debate, right?
No, not yet.
Damn.
Play that in the background then.
If you want to,
Yeah,
I don't really care.
Oh, they're all going to break that. Each leader speaks will be counted on these clocks, visible to the leaders.
If you don't want to listen to it, like if you have it muted and I hear something stupid, I could tell you. So either way.
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
to you at home. This is the 2025 Federal Leaders
This guy
Debate.
kind of looks like me if I got sucked through like a wormhole and stretched out a little bit and shaved and had my hair cut.
Well, welcome, leaders. Good to be with you here tonight in Montreal for what I'm sure will be a memorable evening.
Steve Paikin.
Our first theme is tariffs and threats to Canada, and we will begin with a round of questions. You will each have a minute to answer, and then we'll go to open debate, and the first question goes to Mr. Carney.
This is already bad.
Okay. What is the starting point for negotiations, Mr. Carney, with the United States if, as you have stated, our relationship with the U.S. is over as we know it?
Well, first, Steve, may I thank you and also thank fellow leaders for their service to Canada, people at home for taking the time to watch. I just want to underscore the premise to your question, because I think the relationship that we've had with the United States, relationship over the course of almost the last 4 decades, which has been one of steady and increasing integration, has fundamentally changed because the president is looking to fundamentally restructure the trading system. So the starting point has to be one of strength. It has to show that we have control of our own economic destiny, has to have a clear plan here at home to build this economy, to diversify our trading partners with like-minded countries.
Like China?
And also has to have a position of strength in terms
Yo,
of
dog,
our
let's
reaction
start a
to the U.S.
fucking
unjustified tariffs.
band.
And that's why we have put in place counter tariffs that have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here at home.
Mr. Polyev, would you do anything differently?
Well,
first of all,
triangle
thank you, Steve,
thing.
and thank you.
Ding a ding 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 ding. That's all I'm gonna do. No, I'll be in the band, dude. I'll be the one who stands out the most because that's a very unique instrument.
We'll give you the triangle, but we won't give you a microphone to make it loud, so you'll be there.
No, you know what I'll play? I think I'll play bass, dude.
I think it would actually be good at guitar if I ever learned. But I never learned, so I'll never know.
Oh yeah, I mean, do you have very dexterous fingers or whatever?
I would say that while I'm listening to music, my fingers are very good at matching the notes. Obviously not in a specific way, but Like I can move my fingers relatively quick to match it, I think.
I don't think it's that hard to learn, so. Being good at it is another thing, but
you to our fellow
I could never do this
here today. It's an honor to be here.
Crap.
What would I do different? Well, I'll start by what I would do the same. I think we do need to counter the American tariffs with our own to deter this economic aggression. We must make clear that we will always be sovereign and independent. What would I be doing differently? Well,
somebody say something stupid.
We need to be in a position of strength. The Liberal government has weakened our economy with anti-energy laws, red tape, and high taxes that have driven $500 billion out of our country into the United States.
Okay.
And made us incapable of shipping our resources overseas. That weakness threatens our ability to stand up for ourselves. So what would I do? I would cut taxes, red tape, and approve our resource projects so that we can get our goods to market and bring home the jobs, so we stand up to President Trump from a position of strength.
Mr. Singh, you get the next question. Can we trust the United States to work with us on matters such as Arctic sovereignty and defense policy?
I think we've seen, first of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in, and thanks for the question, Steve. We've seen
Dude, what is it called when, obviously it's being fake, but when someone tries to be overly nice to the moderator and try to basically virtue signal to the audience. What is that called? Is there a word for that?
I don't know.
Because every debate I've seen with the Singh guy be a part of, he does it and it seems so forced.
For a lot of people, it feels like a betrayal when we look at the United States. I grew up in a border town. I grew up in Windsor. And we saw how connected we were as a city and as a community. People lived on one side of the border, worked on the other. People traveled back and forth all the time. We're in the automotive capital of Canada, and we knew how important it was to be able to build cars in Canada. But we saw that those cars went back and forth across the border. Seeing what Donald Trump did to attack Canada in this unprovoked way without any justification really felt like a betrayal.
None.
And so Canadians now are right to say, well, we don't really trust Donald Trump at this point, and we can't really have a lot of faith in it.
Let's go to China.
So when it comes to our Arctic sovereignty and our security, we need to make decisions that are in our best interest and no longer be so dependent and so reliant on the U.S. And that's what I would advocate for, making sure we are resilient, independent, and less dependent on the United States.
Mr. Blanchet, for you, what supports would you want to see for industries affected by tariffs, many, of course, of which are in
counter
Quebec?
tariffs on electricity.
First, be all welcome in Quebec and Montreal. You have me because I try not to speak English in Montreal. However, I think we should never underestimate the threat that Mr. Trump poses on Quebec economy and Canada economy and Mexico economy. But we must acknowledge the fact that the economy of Quebec is built differently. The challenges are not the same. The necessity for Quebec to have at least partly its own voice in the negotiation is important. The difference between Quebec and Canada is very important in terms of economy, but also in terms of identity and language and values and who we are and the way we want to handle immigration. So we have the right to be different. And if this difference is being respected by whoever becomes Prime Minister of Canada, we will be reliable partners in order to achieve the best possible negotiation and protect ourselves.
Do you ever just get randomly lightheaded? Not just like lightheaded, but like almost like you're losing physical consciousness? Does that even make sense?
I think I know what you're talking about. If it is what I'm thinking, then yeah.
Like when it happens to you, do you feel like even though your eyes are open, you can't, for a split second, you can't actually see or process anything? It's just... It's weird because it's not like anything's distorted. It's just like I can't process anything. It's weird.
Well, you're feeling it now?
Well, I did when I was coming down the stairs when I got home. I have a headache, so I took some pills, but...
Well, maybe that's why.
But it even happened earlier today when I didn't have a headache. Yeah, I told you that my family thought or thinks that the progressive conservative party is the same as the conservative party. I told you that, right?
Yeah.
And as I was telling them, I'm like, PC hasn't had a federal party in decades, or like two decades or something. And they still didn't.
He's basically predicting.
Merci, Monsieur Blanchet. Okay, we now move into open debate.
Yeah, we now move
and I'll
into
start it off, Mr. Carney, with you, and then we go from there. Do you still support dollar-for-dollar tariffs, even if they ultimately threaten Canadian jobs and businesses?
No, and in fact, we've already moved off from dollar-for-dollar tariffs.
He's been there for 1 month.
And I think we all do. The United States economy is more than 10 times the size of the Canadian economy.
And more diverse.
And the principle, in terms of our counter tariffs, is to have maximum impact in the United States, as I said a moment ago, minimum impact here. So we have to think about the impact on Canadian businesses. I'll give you one example, if I may. In the auto sector, the way we've designed those auto tariffs is that Canadian automakers, if they maintain production here, if they maintain their investments here, when I say Canadian automakers, I mean automakers that have jobs and plants and production in Canada, then they can have lower tariffs on what they ship to the United States. We create a huge incentive for them in order to do that. We also have carved out the Canadian auto parts sector. Last point, I know you're pressed for time. The Canadian auto parts sector, so that it can remain competitive with the United States. We focus on maximizing Canadian jobs, maximizing the harm in the U.S., so that we get
maximizing
where we need
the harm in the U.S. Can someone clip that?
Mr. Carney, you claim that you want our country to respond with strength, but after the last decade, half of which time you've been Justin Trudeau's economic advisor.
There you go.
Our economy is...
Oh yeah, I know I've told you this before, but just a reminder, Carney, the guy that's the Prime Minister right now, was Trudeau's financial advisor.
Yeah, I think you told me that.
AKA, like...
the devil.
Prison time, dude. You know, I would be totally down if they passed into law that if you're in politics, the threshold for being a criminal is like 1% of us, because I think that deserves prison.
Damn, dude.
It's a sick joke, dude.
Weaker than ever before. It's been the worst growth in the G7. We've lost $500 billion of investment south of the border. You supported blocking...
What if he's just like, I'm just trying to help people?
Yeah, you could probably say, I'm trying to help people by killing, 10 million Jews. It's all the same thing.
Damn. What, do you think he's trying to kill people?
Kill us? Yes, that's literally what it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, countries die.
Why do you think that?
Well, when you can't replace the old people, everyone becomes old and no one is young because no one is procreating. So then everyone just gets old and dies.
And that's what he wants?
Yeah.
Damn! You got this shit figured out!
Well, one thing, he's a part of the WEF, which, yeah, they want the population lower. They want you to eat bugs. They don't want you to own anything. They don't want you to own a home. They don't want you to have kids. That's one thing that they don't want. I think there was one thing where it was they want to have like a cap on how many kids you can have.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. Obviously, they took it off the website, but...
Pipelines in Canada that gave Donald Trump and the U.S. a near monopoly over our energy. And now you want to keep in place Bill C-69, the liberal no new development law that blocks us from shipping our resources overseas. How could you possibly think it's a good idea to give the Americans a continued monopoly on our energy projects when you have seen how much these liberal policies have weakened our country over the last decade?
Let Mr. Carney respond, and then Mr. Singh.
Sure.
If I may, yes. So let's go to my record. My record is a month long as Prime Minister.
Bullshit.
And this goes to the heart of coming to the Americans with strength, but doing the right thing for Canada. Within the first week as Prime Minister,
A month. No, it's not
I
a month.
sat down
It's
with
5
all
years,
the
you
premiers
liar.
of the provinces and territories, as well as the leaders of the Indigenous peoples. Got an agreement with all the provinces and territories, doesn't happen very often, got an agreement for them to have one Canadian economy instead of 13, first point. Secondly, to commit the federal government to do its part by Canada Day, so free trade in Canada by Canada Day. Thirdly, the federal government to commit with respect to project reviews.
The question was about
Sorry,
pipelines.
I'm getting to it. Thirdly, one project, one review, and relying
That's
on
not possible
provincial.
under
Yes, it is
C69.
possible under. It is possible on our system.
No,
it
it's
is
not.
the
It's
impact
banned
assessment.
under C69.
It is agreed on under the impact assessment framework, and we have a cooperation agreement with British Columbia already. We're looking forward to them with the other provinces. We will move forward.
I'll jump in on this.
Mr. Singh's turn, please.
Of course, we agree around having a strategic response to the United States. But what I'm concerned about is what we're doing here in Canada. We are already seeing threats to our country, in that just the threats alone of the tariffs have meant Canadians have lost their jobs. The threats of the tariffs that are in place right now, the impact of those tariffs is that we've lost jobs in steel, aluminum, and the auto sector. People are already losing their jobs. And while Mr. Carney, you had time, as you mentioned, not very long time, but as Prime Minister,
5
you
years.
showed us your priorities. The first thing you did is you had traveled, you made a tax cut for millionaires, which was reversing on the capital gains. So you gave a tax cut to millionaires, but you didn't have time to increase the amount that workers get on EI. Right now, workers who are struggling and wondering, what am I going to do if I lose my job? Workers who've lost their job are saying, how do I pay my bills when EI only covers half of a worker's salary? Maybe 40 years ago that would have worked, but right now most workers are spending their entire salary just to pay.
I find it interesting that this guy would rather pay more in EI than make the job market more stable.
EI?
Yeah, like unemployment benefits or whatever. Like I guess it's like injury shit, but that you can go on EI for literally anything. Oh, it's employment insurance. I don't think you have to be injured in order to get it. But it's like he cares more about EI than he does about making the job market stable. That's the opposite of a job. Is incentivizing people to not work is the opposite.
The bills, to pay their mortgage and their rent, and to put food on the table. So EI is not good enough, and it shows Canadians that you didn't make it a priority.
I do not
protect
want
those
to
that are impacted by these tariffs, that are threatened because their jobs are lost.
We have not heard from Monsieur Blanchet yet in this segment,
I've got
so
nothing
please.
to add.
Mr. Carney, you are becoming a real Canadian leader, saying one thing in French and another one in English.
Booyah!
You said in British Columbia in February that you would force oil and gas through pipelines through Quebec. Either we...
What?
Would you shake his hand?
Whose hand?
Carney.
Oh, if he gave me 50 million, I would. What's his name? I don't even know his first name.
Mark. What if he gave you a $50 Amazon gift card?
It's not even 2 action figures, man. What is that going to get me?
Force oil and gas through pipelines through Quebec. Either we wanted it or not. You would use emergency powers in order to do so. And 2 days later in Montreal, you said that you would never do that without the approval of Quebec. What's the point of using emergency powers?
Look at the detail that this pic got me. The detail of that building right there. Damn.
Yo, which dragon was that one again? The horntail?
The horntail. I think the Romanian. Is it Romanian?
That thing has like no fucking arms, huh?
Well, the arms are the wings.
What's that little thing dangling off there?
The chain, I think.
Oh, it's the chain?
Yeah.
I thought those were like T-Rex arms.
No,
The
there's
fuck?
a chain around its neck. Yeah, no. So is this a dragon or is it a wyvern?
That would be considered a wyvern.
If you do have the agreement of Quebec. However, I do agree with you. It's important to be very strong in front of Mr.
Oh no,
Trump.
That's the fucking castle.
However, I would keep the dollar for dollar policy. Don't be weak in front of Mr. Trump. And those counter tariffs have to be targeted. You have put out already $2 billion for Ontario auto industry, car industry, and the lumberwood industry in Quebec has already paid the United States $2 billion, and you have not raised one finger in order to help us.
Let's get from Mr. Poliev and then a response from Mr. Carney.
Well, Mr. Carney refused to answer the question about pipelines. Just the other day, he said that he doesn't necessarily think we need to build pipelines. Let me tell you what that means. Right now, the Americans get 97% of our oil, 100% of our natural gas exports at big discounts. We have to send Canadian oil from Western Canada through the States just to get it back to Quebec because we don't have a pipeline. And now there's this law, Liberal Law C-69, which effectively bans pipelines. The 14 biggest energy and resource companies say it has to go if we're ever going to build another project. And I asked Mr. Carney why he would keep in place this anti-pipeline law that effectively empowers Donald Trump to have a total monopoly on our single biggest export. Why would you not repeal this liberal law? Isn't it because you are exactly in the same line as Justin Trudeau and the rest of the liberal team that is now making up your cabinet?
He's investing in foreign
let me pick up a couple of points that have been made. The first thing I did as Prime Minister was to cut the carbon tax.
Your tax.
That's the first thing. Second thing is made a commitment that all proceeds from our tariffs will go to workers and those companies most affected. There were several points raised.
Nothing so far.
If I may, Mr. Steve, if I may address, I'm trying to do it quickly because several points raised. All proceeds go to workers and the firms most effective, and those proceeds are considerable. Third thing, I'm interested in solutions. I'm interested in getting energy infrastructure built. That means pipelines, that means carbon capture storage, that means electricity grids. And here's how you do it. And we've already moved in the first month. Cooperation agreements with the provinces. Guess what? We are a federation. You need to cooperate with Quebec. You need to cooperate with the provinces. You need to get First Nations and Indigenous people buy-in. You can do that through the one project, one review window that we put in place at that first ministers' meeting, as well as, if necessary, using emergency powers to fulfill the federal responsibility, but not the unique.
Mr. Poliev, you want to come back on that?
What you're saying, Mr. Carney, with respect, is a total contradiction. The No New Development Law, C-69, guarantees there will not be one-stop shop because it requires the Government of Canada to actually duplicate
So what Mr. Poliev is saying is that have no rules,
project.
have no regulation,
have one
have
shut up,
over
any
energy
Mr. Singh,
development.
we just got to let him finish.
Nobody wants to hear from you.
Let's just let him finish his sentence.
That is not true. In fact, Mr. Singh, the reality is we should have strong rules enforced once. We shouldn't have multiple levels of referral that it takes now 17 years to get a major project approved in this country. That is why in the last 10 years we've had the worst economic growth in the entire G7. We cannot afford a fourth liberal term. We need a change, and the Conservative plan for a change will include repealing the anti-pipeline law so we can get our energy to markets other than the United States.
Mr. Singh, then Mr. Carney.
While these two compete about who's more pro-pipeline, I think what we need to do is, I mean, it's clear. The Liberals bought a pipeline. They built a pipeline. I don't know what Pierre is complaining about. That's what they did. I think what we need to do, if we're talking about energy in our country, we need to build an east-west grid. Let's use our power as a nation to build a national project that creates good jobs, that strengthens us for the future, where we connect the low-cost energy from jurisdictions and provinces across this beautiful land and have low-cost energy for businesses, for people, so we can build a stronger economy. That's the energy of the future that we need.
Mr. Carney.
3 quick points. First, the pipeline built, yes, TMX built. That's why oil exports up 50% over the course of the last few years. Secondly,
I don't think
Mr. Singh is absolutely right about the East-West grid interconnections, which is part of the energy corridor. Huge opportunities for this country. We have to be able to do more than one thing. Third point, fundamental point. We can give ourselves far more than Donald Trump can ever take away. If we have one Canadian economy, not 13, and if we just look at that agreement we got with the provinces, look at what Ontario and Nova Scotia have just announced in terms of their steps towards this, this is within our grasp.
Monsieur Blanchet, what should we be prepared to concede in our negotiations with the United States?
I want to be back to something that Mr. Carney said. You can't do something and the opposite, and you can't fill people's mind with nonsense. Quebec has, by law, its own environmental review institution, and you cannot, through a federal decision, even through a Quebec government decision, go over the BAP, as we call it. If the BAP says no, it's no.
I know.
Good.
I know,
Let's
but this
keep
is
that in mind.
This is the point. This is, if I may, this is the point. The federal government can do the following, which is to take the decision to abide by the decision of the Quebec BAP. That is within the federal government's power. That is known as cooperative federalism. That's what we need to do.
And do you understand one other point fast?
This is what we need. This is what we need to do in a crisis.
Bref Moïse, and then Mr. Poilievre.
Yeah. The building of those pipelines will take at least 10 to 14 years. Mr. Trump will be 90 years old, not president no more, and somebody of course, less terrible will be there before you can even dream of having oil through this pipeline of yours.
We're less than a minute to go. Mr. Poilievre, I promised you next.
Listen, after the last 10 years of Liberals blocking pipelines and killing jobs.
Sounds wild to be
we
saying
actually need to get things done.
Sense.
We need a change.
Can the moderator tell Jagmeet to shut his mouth?
We'll repeal the No New Pipelines.
So you don't
you
don't think women should have the vote, right?
Logically, no. Because most like anything that they complain about, it's always shit that they vote for anyway. It's kind of like if you have people, if you live in a city where people run around rampages, raping and beating up women. It's like it's usually cities that where the voting isn't dominated by men, and whoever wins usually wins because of the female vote. Or I would probably say always. It's kind of like women that complain about dudes being able to go in their washroom. It's like, well, statistically, you
what?
Pay for it. Yeah, like dudes.
Oh, okay, yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah.
It's like, who voted for that, dude? Like, most men don't vote for that, and the only ones that do vote for that are like the feminist types.
Stop shop. Set up shovel-ready zones with pre-permitting so that we can approve LNG liquefaction export
plants. Don't let your mom or your sister hear you talking like that.
Nuclear plants, and also hydroelectric dams so that we can generate the power we need to be strong, self-reliant, and stand on our own 2 feet for a change.
Last quick word to Mr. Carney.
Okay, quick word. Bringing it back to what we were talking about, which is tariffs, the threats to Canada, how to negotiate. We need these options. We need these options to build domestically, to build one Canadian economy. We need to act. We need to diversify our trade partners.
And that will give us strength in this segment. That is our time. Okay, you know my job tonight. I got to be the heavy guy here every now and then, making sure everybody comes to time. And I'm keeping an eye as well on making sure that everybody gets rough justice over here. That concludes our first section and our first debate. Up next, affordability and the cost of living.
By the way, apparently they've specified
double the pace.
Immigration is not on the menu tonight.
It will lower your bills, build homes you can actually afford.
Il faudra parler des entreprises du Québec, des travailleurs du Québec, des aînés du Québec.
A big, powerful bring it home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building.
Okay, leaders, same idea, one-on-one questions followed by open debate format. And Mr. Polyev, you get the first question this time. Many provinces, including some provinces with conservative governments, have ambitious housing targets, none of which have been met. Why do you think your housing plan will be any different?
Let me start by talking to the young people of the nation and those who are aspiring to home ownership. You know, it was only 10 years ago, you could buy an average house for $450,000. But in the last lost Liberal decade, housing costs have doubled, rising faster than in any country in the G7. And so now our youth cannot afford a home, and our seniors are worried about being evicted. We can't afford a fourth Liberal term of rising housing costs. We need a change. And our Conservative plan for change will, 1, axe the federal sales tax on new homes. 2, incentivize municipalities to cut their construction taxes to bring houses down in cost by $100,000. 3, sell off federal land for homes. And 4, train up 350,000 young trades workers who can help build those homes. Because you deserve a home, and we're going to make it happen for a change.
Also on the issue of affordability, Mr. Singh, you get the next question. How do you bring down grocery prices in the midst of a trade war?
I appreciate the question. This is a big concern.
Is that guy
when I
online
talk to Canadians, they tell me they're really feeling squeezed from the cost of living. That's one of the top things that people tell me about. People are saying, I can't afford to buy groceries. Every time I go to the grocery store, it's just ongoing.
And he goes by himself. He buys his own groceries.
Feeling of anxiety that can I actually afford the things that my family needs? On top of that, people are worried about the cost of homes. I think those are the two biggest things I hear. So we can do things about this. Other countries have taken concrete steps. We can put in a price cap on food essentials.
Siege guy
Price
online.
cap on food. Greece has done it. It's a great success. It's brought down the cost of food significantly in both those jurisdictions. We can also ban corporate landlords from buying up the affordable homes to keep homes that are affordable. We can make things better for Canadians, but it requires having the courage to take on the powerful corporations that are ripping you off, that are price gouging you. And we know that price gouging is one of the major reasons why food prices are going up.
That's absolutely wrong. You're a big, stupid idiot,
the fact that these are the corporations ripping you off.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Next time. Mr. Blanchet, I want to ask you about old age security, which will soon cost this country $100 billion annually. We understand you would like to expand it. How would you pay for that?
We would want it to be just for everybody because the Liberals have created the discrimination against elders, which are 65 to 75 years.
You know what Junk Meat just blamed the high food prices on?
What?
Price gouging. Like, will they never? Do they have any idea how anything works?
Years old, having 10% less income from federal government than those who are over 75. But the best way to do it is to have everybody pay its fair share in terms of tax, which means that one should not be entitled to hide money in fiscal paradise in order not to pay him or his clients
Why
or friends,
is it that Blanchet is making these
billions of dollars in taxes that could be used to help the situation of elders? Those are things which are supposed to be applied to everybody. There are a lot of questions to be answered about that. Other ways to do it is to reduce the pressure on housing price to make sure that the whole budget of elders and families and workers can afford houses which have increased dramatically in price.
Merci, Monsieur Blanchet. That's time for this one. Mr. Carney, I want to ask you about housing, which over the past decade has gone from a problem to a crisis while the Liberals were in power. Is your
I've only been
on
Prime
getting
Minister
homes
for 1
built
month.
any different from your predecessors? and how?
I remind you,
this is one of the reasons why I entered this this contest because of the housing crisis, the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, and the Trump crisis.
Your
to help,
parties and the
to
same
help
people.
fix it.
Same
and
people
I would look.
Still in
the
charge.
housing approach is fundamentally different because we need a fundamentally different approach. We need to build housing at a rate that we haven't seen since the end of the Second World War. We do need a fundamentally different approach. And with the fundamentally different approach, we can build an entirely new industry. So the question is how? Now, Mr. Poilievre and I agree on some things. Okay, I agree as well on reducing the tax on first-time home purchases as a way to buy. But I am focused on increasing the supply of homes and doing that in a way that uses Canadian technology and modular prefabricated housing, that uses Canadian lumber,
he's talking about living
including in reinforced timber,
houses.
and uses Canadian workers. And in all respects, we're scaling up to double the rate of home building.
We're
Thank you,
scaling up
Mr.
10
Carney.
years.
That's time. We now move to open forum here. And Mr. Singh, you
Yeah,
get the first comment.
crush him.
Many of you have pledged to cut the GST on many aspects of buying a home. And Mr. Singh, I want to ask you, would you cut the GST on anything else in order to make life more affordable?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm the only one on this stage that fought to give people a GST holiday. Interestingly, while the GST holiday helps working class folks, middle class folks by taking off the GST off essentials, the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre voted against that. They opposed the idea of giving people, actual folks that need help, a tax break, and would rather give millionaires a tax break, which shows you whose side he's on, which is not surprising. But what is surprising is that Mr. Carney also said that giving people a break on their GST is a bad idea. Mr. Carney, why do you think giving a tax break to capital gains folks that earn more than $1 million is a good idea, but helping a family afford their groceries, helping people afford their bills for their internet, their cell phone, their home heating, giving them relief to take the GST off those is a bad idea, but giving a tax break to people who really only earn over more than $1.4 million, that's somehow a good idea.
Okay, you went after
that's your numbers.
You went after Mr. Poilievre first, so I'm going to give him the first shot to respond.
Well, Mr. Carney, the reality is that housing costs doubled under the Liberal government, while Justin Trudeau made exactly the same promises that you are now repeating today. He promised that he would double home building. In fact, home building went down. He promised that he'd reduce the cost. In fact, it went up. And now here we are. Mark Carney is asking for a fourth Liberal term, repeating the exact same Liberal promises that priced you out of a house. Just a few weeks ago, before the election, the Liberals voted against taking the GST off new homes, and they have continued to build up bureaucracies that block construction. We need a change so that you can afford a home, and our change will be, again, to axe the sales tax on new homes, incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development costs. Train up 350,000 young people who can be in the trades to build those homes and sell off the land that is going to be needed in order to build homes. That is a real plan for you to own a home and afford your life for a change.
Mr. Carney, they're coming at you from both sides. What do you say?
Okay. I know it may be difficult, Mr. Poilievre. You spent years running against Justin Trudeau on the carbon tax, and they're both gone. Okay, they're both gone. And we're in a new
impersonation of them with the same policies tonight.
Very different. Look, I'm a very different person from Justin Trudeau. Focus is on results.
Were you his economic
advisor?
And
so how to drive results in
Ask
the
it again,
housing
Pierre. I don't
market.
think he heard you.
You've got to change the model of building. You've got to increase the financing for housing developers, $25 billion on the table for those housing developers, $10 billion for deeply affordable homes, cutting development charges in half, lowering the cost of the building of those homes by 20%, and lowering the emissions and the run costs of those homes by another 20%. This is how you drive affordability. This is how you bring young people back into the housing market.
Exactly what Trudeau
and then Mr. Singh.
You claim to be very different from Mr. Trudeau. Now, the point is to show that you are any better than Mr. Trudeau. You claim to have a lot of experience in many things, and you know things. Last time we had somebody saying that they knew things, it was the senators, and they killed the law that protected supply management because they knew better than us and were elected by nobody, exactly like you are today. You say that you are a great crisis manager. Which one? I heard of nothing. As far as I know, Brexit happened, even if you were against it. You say you are a great negotiator. What have you negotiated but fiscal paradises in Bermudas or Cayman Islands? You have to prove something, and you have to reveal what you own in those companies if you want people to believe you.
Mr. Singh, you wanted to...
Yes, returning to the topic of housing. Now, it's very important. Obviously, we need to build homes that people can afford. Mr. Poilievre had the opportunity to show us what he could do. He was the Minister of Housing
he
under
built 6 houses.
Stephen Harper.
Say it.
And during that time,
6
guess
houses.
how many homes he built?
6.
He built 6 homes.
Bullshit.
During that entire time.
Jagmeet cannot
this is
do
not
anything
something you can
but
trust
lie.
to build homes. He built
200,000.
6 homes.
200,000.
And this has been confirmed again and again. He built
200,000.
6 homes. That's it. Now, the problem, though, with Mr. Carney is, well, he's laid out a plan. The problem is that when he was the chair of Brookfield Investments, this is a company that made a strategic decision to buy up affordable homes in cities like Toronto, where people were paying a decent rent. And they purposely bought those homes, kicked out the tenants, and jacked up the rents. That is not someone you can trust, sadly, to deal with the housing crisis when Mr. Carney, you profited off of it.
We're going to get responses here. Mr. Poilievre first, Mr. Carney second.
First of all, Mr. Singh,
hold this up to remind you.
the Toronto
6 right
Star, the Toronto Star debunked your falsehoods.
No, it was 6
on that.
homes, and
I
that's the
appreciate
fact.
neither Liberals or NDP are very good with math, but in that
You're
year,
clearly-
the year I
you
was
can
the
count up to
minister, if I
6,
could,
which is great.
the year
Let's
I
Mr.
was,
Singh, let's let him answer.
in the year I
It's
was,
not high enough, though.
the year I was minister, we had 200,000 homes built, and guess what the average price of a home was at the time? $450,000.
And guess what happened
And
at the end of the conservative reign?
one bedrooms
It
rented
doubled.
out for $900, and that since that time, housing costs have actually doubled under the Liberals.
They doubled
and now
under
we have
Conservatives, too.
now we have Mr. Carney making tens of billions of dollars of spending promises that
They
will
doubled under
ultimately
you as well.
continue to build bureaucracy. We don't need more bureaucracy in Ottawa. We tried that for 10 Liberal years, Mr. Carney. What we need is to build homes in communities.
Certainly
and
don't
that
need
means
Conservatives.
axing taxes on home building and getting the government out of the way so that builders can actually build.
I think,
Mr. Carney,
can I pick
you
up-
are on housing. We need a change, and you, sir, are not a change.
Mark Carney.
I'm going to pick up on, I thought that answer was quite revealing. The first thing is that it's an attitude towards housing that absolutely ignores affordable housing, deeply affordable housing, issues with vulnerable people, ignores the rental market, ignores all other aspects of it. So the 6 are the relevant. Mr. Singh is absolutely right. The 6 are the relevant.
200,000.
The 200,000 are a different part of the housing market. There are many Canadians. There are many Canadians at different income levels. The second thing it reveals is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding, I'll be polite, of how the government's balance sheet can catalyze enormous private investment. And that is what we need to do to solve the housing crisis. It happens to be what we need to do as a whole to address the economic crisis that's been forced on us by President Trump.
Mr. Blanchet?
Yeah. You have spoken much more than I have, so I won't ask a question. I will make a statement instead. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that you cannot do what you pretend that you are able to do. We just have no.
Okay, I'll be back. Would you mind printing off something for me on the computer? I'll send it. Okay. Here, I'll put the piece of paper on top of the, like right here. And then I'll send it, okay? Oh, fuck. Can you sign into your email on that computer or no? Can you sign into your work email? Do you have a personal email?
Proved so far. I'm saying quite clearly that you cannot be entitled to do it alone. You cannot be entitled to hold all the power in your 2 hands. You cannot go out there and fix things for Canada and Quebec without being seriously checked by serious people. You cannot go out there and speak for Quebec without Quebec having its own strong voice to protect itself and to promote its different economy. So if you want to collaborate, let's say right now that whatever happens, even if minority government happens, you will be a partner with the different Quebec economy and identity, which you have been not interested in for the economic part and not respectful for the identity part.
Let me get Mr. Singh in at this point. Can you tell us what's the first thing you would do to make life more affordable for Canadians?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do, and I've laid out some of those things. I think fundamentally, I'm the only person on stage that not only fought for real relief for people in terms of affordability, I'm the only one that fought for pharmacare that actually makes life more affordable by giving people medication coverage, dental care that gives people more affordability by letting them access their services if you're a senior and a kid. I fought for childcare to make sure people could afford childcare. All measures that Mr. Poilievre voted against, all measures that Mr. Blanchet voted against. So if you want someone that's going to fight for you in Ottawa to actually make life more affordable, you can't entrust all the power to Mr. Carney. He doesn't have a track record of making life more affordable for people, but we do. So vote for a New Democrat, and we'll continue this work to make life more affordable for you. While the Conservatives and the Bloc have voted against those measures to make life affordable, because that's not who they care about, New Democrats are in it for you.
Pierre Poilievre.
The number one expense for families today is taxes, more than they spend on food, clothing, and shelter combined. This after 10 years of Liberal tax increases. We can't afford a fourth term of high Liberal taxes. That's why Conservatives have a plan for change. And that plan includes
voted against every measure to help people out.
Cutting income taxes by 15% for the average worker and senior, saving a working couple up to $2,000, rewarding hard work again. Because hard work is actually being punished. Is actually being punished because of the very high taxes. Now, the Liberals promised 10 years ago they would lower them. They actually raised taxes on 9 out of 10 Canadians. We need a change in this country because your hard work should once again pay off with a powerful paycheck that buys you an affordable affordable home,
so you want to save people $2,000,
and that's what we will deliver.
You want to save people $2,000, but cut their dental care, which is thousands of dollars.
False.
Cut their child care, which is thousands of dollars. Cut pharmacare coverage, which is thousands of dollars.
False.
That's not a very good math deal right there. You're gonna save people $2,000, but cost them tens of thousands of dollars. That's why you cannot afford Conservatives, and you certainly can't trust the Liberals on their own.
Turn.
You need New Democrats.
Mark Carney. I'm going to reinforce that point, and then I'll respond to Mr. Blanchet. Childcare in this country, $3,000 to $10,000 a year for a family, depending on where you live.
Province, jurisdiction.
Depending on where you live, that's what's being saved there. $800 per trip to the dentist. We've expanded dental care to 8 million Canadians. 8 million Canadians.
Because New Democrats
Pharmacare. These are fundamental issues for affordability. We're talking about affordability and taking them off in order.
And that's why you need New Democrats.
Quebec.
That's not what I've said.
And in terms of
income taxes
working with Quebec
for Canadians.
Yes, absolutely. Throughout the short time I've been Prime Minister, working directly with the Premier of Quebec, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, our Minister of Finance are from Quebec. Quebec and Quebec issues, whether it's supply
to answer Mr. Legault's letter, he asked 5 things in the letter. He reduced his expectations.
We're talking about,
and you did not even answer him. And tonight, you are so much in love with Quebec.
Steve, the question that Canadians have to ask.
Why vote for Conservatives?
He's got the Mr. Singh, sorry, he has the floor.
Jagmeet really has to
the question you have to ask is, after a decade of Liberal promises, can you afford food? Is your housing more affordable than it used to be? What is your cost of living like compared to what it was a decade ago? And are you prepared to elect the same Liberal MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal staffers all over again for a 4th term? Mr. Carney, Justin Trudeau's staffers are actually here with you at this debate in Montreal, writing the talking points that you are regurgitating into the microphone. How can we possibly believe that you are any different than the previous
Someone might want to clip that.
5 seconds left in this segment for you to respond to that.
Look, I do my own talking points. Thank you very much. The
fact check false.
Biggest risk we have to affordability, the biggest risk we have to this economy is Donald Trump. So first and foremost, we've got to get that right. Secondly, we need to do it in a way that brings everyone along together. That means preserving pharmacare, dental care, child care, reinforcing health care, spending our
intrusion in Quebec jurisdiction over and again. I like if we're any better than we are.
The clock
is there one thing Canadians can do that Quebecers cannot do? You are doing intrusions in our jurisdiction with our money, pretending you are better, and most of the time you try to copy what we did with our own money against us. What's that as a policy? Don't you have your own things to care about?
That really is time for this segment. I wanted to be polite and let everybody finish their points,
but far behind,
we got to move on.
I took the liberty.
Thank you. Okay, that ends section 2. Up next, public safety and security.
Fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong.
Keep crime, drugs, stolen cars, and other illegal substances out of our country.
We're going to invest in our borders, and that means hiring more border officers.
Resources are in short supply, not enough staff. This is not the nice way to treat people who come to our border.
Okay, same format, one-on-one questions and then open debate. Monsieur Blanchet, you get to go first in this one. Public safety and security. For a lot of people, that means the fentanyl crisis. I'd like to know what you could contribute to ending that crisis in this country.
The fentanyl crisis is a very serious issue, which is a bit less important in Quebec than it is in British Columbia. I think the whole border thing is the real issue. Immigration is a very important issue for Quebecers. Immigration has to be dealt with in an orderly fashion. Our borders are not dealt with in an orderly fashion. The rules are not respected. The rules are unclear. Some rules even invite people to hide for 2 weeks illegally before coming out. Some things has to be done. The situation of one person asking for asylum may take as much as 4 years without us reducing the number in order to deal with them in a human way. The services for every citizen in Quebec are being reduced because we cannot afford the fact that we are receiving much, much more people in Quebec from this specific type of immigration than we can afford, and we cannot teach them French.
That's time, Mr. Blanchet. We can, of course, return to the immigration issue during open debate, should you choose to. Mr. Carney, question for you. The Liberal gun buyback policy, not considered a success by many people. Reviving it is in your platform. Yeah. Why would it work this time?
Yeah, I think, well, what we've seen with that policy is some success at the commercial level, but not at the individual level, because it hasn't been, in my opinion, it hasn't been organized properly, and it needs to be organized properly. And I've instructed the Minister of National Security and Public Safety in order to do that. So part of this is a different focus of government, a focus on results, a focus on clear milestones in the short term. Let me make a broader point, though, on gun, which is that we have a problem with guns coming over borders, which is why we've tightened our borders. We have an issue, though, with a gun industry that is continually coming up with new forms of assault rifles, mass killing machines. We've banned over 2,000 of these. Every single time there has been a vote in the House of Commons on gun control, Mr. Poilievre has voted against it. You can't be tough on crime unless you're tough on guns.
Poilievre, you can come back on that in the open debate if you want to, but my question for you in this segment is, Indigenous people are statistically overrepresented in our correction system. Are you concerned that your tough on crime platform will make that worse?
I'm concerned that Indigenous people...
Wait, did you hear that question?
Oh, no, I had it muted.
So the guy asked, Indigenous people are more... they're like percentage-wise, they more of them are in prison. And then he asks Pierre, is your tough on crime policy? Wait, hold on.
Nice, dude.
Statistically overrepresented in our correction system. Are you concerned that your tough on crime platform will make that worse?
Are you concerned that your tough on crime platform will make that worse?
Damn, dude.
Isn't that a stupid question? If it's going to make it worse, then okay, they're committing crimes, okay. Just because they're fucking Native Americans, we're supposed to let them commit crimes?
Whoa.
I'm concerned that Indigenous people are disproportionately the victims of crime. I give you the example of a wonderful group of Indigenous people who came under attack in Saskatchewan, and many of them were murdered. Killer was out of jail after 60 prior convictions. This is the result of 10 years of liberal laws that allow the same offenders to be released dozens and dozens of times, even when it's known they are a danger. We can't risk a fourth liberal term of soft on crime policies. We need a change. And the Conservative plan for change will bring in a 3 strikes you're outlaw, 3 convictions for serious crimes, you go to jail for at least 10 years, maybe for life, no chance of parole or bail. We will bring in life sentences for traffickers of fentanyl, human beings, and guns, and we will secure our borders to keep the illegal
Thank you,
guns
Mr.
out.
Polyev. That's time. Mr. Singh, your question is about the RCMP, because you've got RCMP reform in your platform. What, in your view, is the problem with the RCMP?
Well, some of the basis for this is the concern that's been raised in more rural communities and northern communities that there have been some serious concerns about violence or inappropriate use of force when it comes to the execution of their duties. We want to make sure that we've got a top-tier police force that provides security and safety to those communities in a way that's sensitive and understanding of the communities they're serving. I also think what's very important is for Indigenous communities, Indigenous policing. This is an area of deep concern. I think everyone in our country should be safe. You should be able to be safe at home, safe when you go to work, safe if you take public transit, safe for your kids to be able to play in the local playground. And that's something I'm committed to. And the other area that I'm focused on when it comes to public safety is making sure we prevent crime before it happens. And that's why we want to see increased investments in our border security. We saw under the Conservatives, they cut 1,100 border officers in one day. So that prevented our ability to keep our borders safe. That stops those materials from
Mr.
coming
Singh,
into the
that's
country.
time. Not sure it was about the RCMP, but maybe we can get back to that during the open debate segment, which we go to right now. And Mr. Polyev, you get the first word on this one, and it sort of dovetails on the last answer you gave, which is you have pledged to be the first prime minister in this country to use the notwithstanding clause, setting aside charter rights of, as you call them, multiple murderers. Why do you think that's necessary?
To be clear, I want to uphold the charter rights of Canadians under Section 7 to life, liberty, and security of the
other
person.
charter rights, Pierre,
right now,
maybe you should mention
that
those.
right is violated by multiple murderers who are given discounts. The case in question was a gentleman who went into a mosque and shot dead 6 innocent worshipers. He got, according to this ruling, only one 25-year sentence, meaning he can be out in his 50s. He only serves 4 years for every murder that he carried out. That is outrageous. And I will use the constitutional powers that are created for this purpose to ensure that mass murderers stay in maximum security penitentiary for life. They will only come out in a box. We will also pass tough new laws that prevent repeat offenders from getting out. If you commit 3 offenses under the 3 strikes law I propose, you will not be allowed out of jail until you prove that you are drug-free, that you are behaved perfectly, and that you've learned an employable skill, and you've served a 10-year sentence. We cannot allow liberal crime and chaos to go on terrorizing our communities. What we need is a real plan for change so that we can bring back the safety and the security that Canadians used to take for granted.
Let me get Mr. Carney to respond to that. Do you think that's an appropriate use of the notwithstanding clause of the Charter?
I think that the one of the core responsibilities of the federal government, Prime Minister, is to defend the fundamental rights and liberties of Canadians. And those fundamental rights and liberties of Canadians are outlined in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is 43 years old literally today. I think it's a very dangerous slope to override judgments of the Supreme Court of Canada.
That's
in
what
fact, the Charter of
the
Rights and
notwithstanding
Freedoms
clause is for.
exists to protect Canadians from people like us on the stage, politicians who may use their power to override fundamental rights. And the issue in using by the federal government, I'll stop here,
please,
is not where you start.
It's where you stop.
Where will you stop?
Mr. Polyev, I should get Mr. Polyev on that. Is it a slippery slope if you use it in this case?
I must say, I would be quite interested too. because Mr. Carney said that he didn't want us to use the notwithstanding clause before adopting a law. And yesterday he said that he felt that it was wrong to use the notwithstanding clause after a law is adopted. So if we cannot use it before and we cannot use it after, it means that Mr. Carney believes that we should never use it. But it is very important. And the Ford case made it clear. The Constitution says how it should be used, but never how or what we will do with it, because it's the prerogative of the provinces. So do you want the Supreme Court to overrule another judgment of the same Supreme Court because you don't like it? Because that would be being the hell of a politician as you define them.
Well, let me just start by saying, first of all, yeah, thank you. I just started by saying, let's not let Mr. Poilievre get away with making this ludicrous claim that anyone on this stage thinks that violent crime should get a less severe penalty. Obviously, that is not a special position
did
he's
he
taking.
say that?
Everyone agrees that horrible crimes should have horrible sentences. Judges are equipped to do that, so don't let Mr. Poilievre's rhetoric confuse people. Obviously, everyone agrees that if someone does something horrible, they should pay a horrible price for it. There should be appropriate sentence that's put in place by a judge. But what I'm concerned about is all of what Mr. Poilievre is talking about is after the fact. Now, there's heinous things that happen, and there needs to be severe penalties put in place. But we also need to keep communities safe. And that's what my focus is. Well, how do we stop crime before it happens? Much of the violent crime that's committed is committed by illegal handguns and firearms that come across the border. Now, Mr. Poilievre has admitted that as well, that it is illegal handguns and illegal weapons that are used in violent crime. So our plan is, let's stop those illegal weapons getting into our country in the first place. And the way we do that is by having stronger border security officers and having more people on the border. Mr. Pierre Poilievre, when he was in power in the Conservatives, they cut the number of border officers. They reduced the number, weakening our borders.
Keeping an eye on time
Can't trust them.
Let's get back to Mr. Poilievre on the issue of whether, in using the notwithstanding clause under these circumstances, would be a kind of a slippery slope and encourage politicians to use it more.
No, we will use it to protect the charter rights of law-abiding Canadians. I'm interested in the rights of victims. Mr. Carney seems to be very interested in the rights of criminals. He says that it's dangerous for me to ensure that mass murderers stay behind bars for life. You know what's dangerous? Turning them loose on our streets. I don't think you appreciate, sir, the chaos that is unfolding in communities. In Toronto right now, the police have been forced to tell people to just let the thief steal the car. When they break into the house, just take the keys. Just let them take the keys so that you don't get hurt. People are living in terror in many of our communities precisely because of the catch and release bail law, C-75, which requires judges release the accused at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. Every single member of your Liberal caucus and your Liberal cabinet voted in favor of this bill, and they are all determined to keep it in place despite constant promises to the contrary. Mr. Carney, Canadians deserve to live in peace and security. That is the right that I'm fighting for a change.
I'm fighting for that as well. And let me be specific about two things that have been raised. The first is with respect to these issues of car theft, home invasion, and I'll use the GTA area where there has been sharp increase. How do you attack that? You attack it several ways.
How do you attack it? How did it happen?
You increase the criminal penalties for that.
How did it happen?
Particularly if you're part of a gang, particularly if you use a firearm.
And you will do that?
And we're doing so. We've committed to doing so. You put in place a reverse onus in terms of bail so that it has to be proven that there's not a risk, which we've also committed to. And then you go to what Mr. Singh was talking about, which is we have to reinforce our frontiers. That's why we're committing to an extra 1,000 Canada Border Service agents, an extra 1,000 RCMPs. That's why, as part of the broader fentanyl initiative, where we've added to the RCMP there, we've added drones, we're adding helicopters, we're adding surveillance, and we're going to the other end of the chain with respect to car theft, which is tightening security at the ports. This is what we need. In order to get results, You need to focus where at both ends of the chains in federal.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about one of the issues that has come up is the idea of the public safety concerns around the overdose crisis and how this is devastating our communities. We're seeing so many lives being lost. In that, we know that one of the ways to address that is by investing in some of the solutions like mental health services and rehabilitation services. Services keep our communities safe, having access to those good services. Both Mr. Carney and Mr. Polyev are proposing cutting government spending and cutting those services. That's not going to make our communities safer. We need to see better investments in rehabilitation services, more investments in mental health. We need to respond to this serious crisis in our country with care and compassion. I've met with Moms Stop the Harm, an organization of moms that have lost their children to this opioid overdose crisis. They've literally had their children have died because of this. And they're saying we need to do everything possible to save lives, to stop this death from happening. And I think we need to listen to those moms, and that's my commitment.
Mr. Blanchet. Two things as rapidly as possible. First, we believe that we should act on crime gangs and organizations, defining them as we do for terrorist organization. We have to protect our kids from the violence of those gangs, from the drugs being sold by those gangs, from the guns and whatever else being stolen, sale, being by those gangs.
Sold?
And not stolen, being, you purchase a thing and selling, sold by those gangs. And we mostly have to protect our kids from being recruited by those gangs, becoming violent at 13 and 14 and 16 years old, because this is the real fear of parents like.
Since I last told you. Yo, dog, what depth are you at?
Not very far.
Damn, dog.
So, like, within the past 2 weeks, maybe?
What, for me?
Like, yes, and the last time.
You remember when I messaged you?
Yeah. So, I was,
yeah, that was the last time.
This is a very dangerous situation. I want to come back to immigration because we said that we would come back to immigration. Do you remember the Century Initiative, a sad memory? Officially, they said that they had not considered Quebec difference. They had not considered Quebec language. They wanted Canada to be a 100 million people country by the end of the century. Mr. Barton told me himself that he had not even thought about the Quebec difference in that analysis. And one of his closest collaborators is now a close counselor to Mr. Carney, which seems to be part also of that kind of project or ideology. So it is impossible for Canada to have all those people come into Canada. It is impossible for Quebec to receive all those people. And in Quebec, we have the language and values and secularity of the state issue, which is very important. So I say, pause. Let's do things properly. Let's receive migrants in an orderly fashion and successfully as a measure of respect for them also.
Mr. Polyev, you wanted a word.
I speak to families all the time who are terrified by the scourge of drugs and illegal guns. And we know those guns are not Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle. So when the Liberals try to ban hunting rifles,
why'd you do it, dog? She was 10 years old.
Going after the wrong people. 90% of guns that come into that are used in crime are smuggled illegally over the porous, Liberal-run borders. And that's why the police. It's not true, and that's why the police actually, if I could, the police actually endorsed me. The police in Barrie, in Peel, in Sault Ste. Marie have all endorsed me because they know that I will go after the gun smugglers and criminals with 2,000 extra frontline border guards that will stop the guns from coming in. Unlike the Liberals and NDP, I will not ban hunting rifles. The Liberals want to protect. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. The Liberals want to protect turkeys from hunters. I think we know which one makes the most sense.
Cut off his intervention, Mr. Carney. Then I got a question for each of you before this segment's out.
Cut off his flipping mic already. Jugmeat is an idiot.
We absolutely
Would
fully
you call
support
yourself
hunting
an angry person, dog?
I'm a person that gets angry. but that doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah, dog. No. You seem like you got a lot of anger, dog. You pay your car insurance, dog.
Well, it does it. They take it out automatically.
Damn.
Then apparently a Brampton Costco got robbed and they're just breaking the glass and taking shit.
Wow.
Hunters
Usual suspects,
and
I
indigenous
imagine.
Canadians. But I want to raise an issue, which is
They're the same race as their sweater. Can you guess what color
Nice.
their sweater is?
Does it rhyme with crack?
Yeah, man.
serious issue.
Serious
I'm about to say. There are people. We're in Montreal.
Yo, that's actually hilarious that you said crack.
Yeah. And there's an intention behind that, so.
In Montreal, in Toronto, across this country, who fear going to their synagogue, fear going to their community center, fear taking their children, leaving their children in school. And this has to stop. This is it's totally unacceptable. So
well, I guess Costco's gonna
is to make it a criminal offense.
Do what Costco does, I guess.
Or to impede.
What do you think they're gonna do?
Near or going to their place of worship, their school, their community center. This, it pains me that we have to do it, because this is not what we should be doing as Canadians, of course. But we will put that in place.
Imagine you're getting robbed, and you're not allowed to do anything to the person robbing you. How is that not giving them an incentive to steal? It's like, hey, you're
Let me have a fucking Desert Eagle.
It's like, hey, you're not allowed to fight the guy off that's raping you. You have to wait until it's done, that you're possibly dead. Like, literally retarded right there. But hey, the same people that don't want you to be able to punch the person in the face that's stealing from you, or kill them, which I think should be 100% justified and legal. Same people that don't want that are the same people that would get mad at the scenario I gave. Hey man, you gotta wait until he's done, right?
Damn.
If you say that to them, you're a bad person. But if you say, hey, you gotta do something to the guy stealing, they're like, oh no. It's retarded. Those, yes. You asked me earlier, yes, those people shouldn't be allowed to vote. 99% of the retards that vote for that are probably them.
Let me get back.
And this is a fundamental issue with respect
Let me
to
get
any
10 seconds from each of you before this segment's out on what you perceive to be the biggest security threat to Canada right now.
It's a weird world
10 seconds
out
each.
there.
Mr. Polyev.
The physical security threat to our country is the rampant crime wave that is running out of control. After the last decade, we had a 116% increase in gun crime. We need
self-defense yet in the debate?
No, I don't think they will. That's not really a thing that Canadian leaders talk about. Unless they're saying that a certain situation wasn't or couldn't be self-defense. I think I've watched, this is probably the third Canadian debate I've watched. I've never even heard anything close to self-defense come up. You're basically compelled to die, like in this country. That's basically the truth.
Yeah, I haven't heard it phrased that way, but yeah, pretty much.
Because if I were to compare it to something, I think I've told you, places like New Jersey, New York, you are obligated to flee. You don't. There's no standard ground. There's like you have to flee. You can't fight back. You have to flee. You're legally obligated to flee. Where if you're in Missouri, Florida, Texas, it's standard ground. So you basically have the personal duty. So you obviously don't have to do it if you don't want to, but you have the full right to defend you and your property, which I think is fucking based. Because your house is an extension of you. Like if someone's trying to steal my car, whether it's my car or the Chevelle, like they're probably getting killed if I have the opportunity.
Damn.
But no, apparently that's not allowed. So hey, they get to steal my car. They get to steal my car and maybe kill me, but then I have to wait in a coffin while they go to jail or get prosecuted for it, if they even get prosecuted. So they can do what they want, but I have to wait while I'm dead for something to happen to them.
It's fucked.
Okay, that's 10 seconds.
It's all effeminate policy, dude. Like, imagine when men ran politics. You could shoot someone stealing from you or attacking you, and like the cops
just go about your day.
The cops would just be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, see ya," like literally.
Yeah, beautiful.
And one way how you knew that people were based is that if you had a disagreement in fucking Congress back in the day, you're going back and having a shootout. That is fucking crazy. Those people are the opposite of anti-self-defense because they're willing to actually put themselves on the line just to win an argument legally.
It was pretty wild.
Dude, that is hilarious, bro.
Gotta hold you to
and it's not even just a shoot. It's just like they would stand in front of each other, and then a guy would say, "Yeah, shoot," and then they would just,
Yeah, like a real quick draw.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
That's when you know that they were about that life. They weren't just pussies writing law that could fuck us over. They were actually about that shit. They put that stuff into law that would screw themselves over if they ever crossed the line.
Well, there was a time when, when war was conducted, they would just march into fire, like a steady pace march. And
you'd be playing like the flute or whatever at the front of the line
yeah.
and you get hit. Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was just way different back then.
Alright, I'll see if he's on because I feel like he will be.
Well, we're in a security section. I think
see
we
why
didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally.
Saturday.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
China, you say?
Yeah.
Mr. Singh.
Biggest security threat, illegal guns and drugs coming across the border, and cuts to services that would make our public safety and security even worse.
Last word to Monsieur Blanchet.
The fact that neither Quebec or Canada is able to protect itself and that we are still dependent and entirely dependent on Americans to protect us.
Okay, that is the end of that section. Gentlemen, up next, energy and climate.
Improving pipelines, getting things built, unleashing production.
We are unlocking major infrastructure projects,
Sometimes
including in conventional energy, oil and gas.
We're speaking thousands of dollars a year for each family to pay for the damages of climate change.
What, did he sound like he had like a family or some shit?
Energy grid.
No, he actually sounds like my cousin. He sounds like, I don't want to talk shit, but he sounds like he's fat and has he reminds me
Damn.
of my cousin Douglas. Because when there was one time where it was the final round, so we won 5-4, and I think it came down to the last kill, and what he said in the mic was, and this is how he said it. He was like, 2 A's. Like that was actually, I did that really well actually.
Oh yeah, dude. I just picture the Dorito dust on his shirt.
And hey, man, he's helped me get 4 wins. I think I've lost maybe once or twice max. Hey, he's giving me wins. I'm not gonna talk shit.
Yeah, man. He's a fucking saint.
He hasn't pissed me off. Even when he does bad, he's still like, I think he went like 4-4, and that was like his worst game. So I'm like, I can't.
Energy and climate change. I know how much all of you love talking about pipelines.
If he's good,
so
he's
here
good.
we go. Mr. Singh, to you first. Should Canada build new pipe?
For sure. I wouldn't say like much better, but he is definitely better. He can probably quick peek. I physically can't quick peek with my thumb. Can't move to each side like other people can. Other people's middle finger can. And my fingers are too big. Most
lines to get our oil and gas to market.
Really
well, it's not an approach I favor with public money. There's not any projects that are on the table, so it's not a specific project to look at. I favor, when it comes to the environment, building an east-west energy grid that connects low-cost energy and allows for families to reduce their electricity costs. But let's put this all in context.
Put it in context.
We're talking about what our energy solutions are in the context of a climate crisis. And we're not just talking about a climate.
Okay.
Now, this is mainly just design, like architectural, like just a visual. What looks better, having these 2 things together on the side of the building, or having this like that, just 2 blocks?
I know. I feel like you'd think that having the 2 things would look better, but for some reason I think just the
blocks,
like just the solid block or whatever. Because I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just the way Minecraft, I don't know, handles that kind of like geometry, but I don't know. It just looks kind of odd.
Climate crisis in the far future. We're living it right now. I remember I met a mom a couple of years ago before I had kids who told me she was worried about taking her kids out on some days because of the forest fires in BC. It meant that it was unsafe for kids to go outdoors. Fast forward to when I became a parent just a couple of years after that, and I literally worry about the same thing. The forest fires we saw a couple of years ago meant that many places that didn't see this before saw days where there was such smoke in the air that it was dangerous for kids. We've seen extreme weather, forest fires, heat domes, floods impacting us. We've got to do everything we can to
Thank you,
protect
Mr. Singh. That's time. Mr. Polyev, where does fighting climate change land on your list of priorities when it comes to expanding energy opportunities in this country?
It lands within our priorities of bringing home jobs while bringing down emissions around the world. Look,
I wonder if
the
out there
reality
there's
is
some
that
book
if we
that has
push
literally
production out of our country to more
every
polluting
piece of
countries,
information
it actually makes
that
the
you
problem
need to have
worse. But that
whatever
has
life
been
you wanted.
exactly the liberal approach
has done
with the anti-development law, C-69.
Sounds like a pretty lit book, dude.
And people think they've already found that book, whether it's, like the Bible or some like fucking textbook or some shit. I don't know. But you hear of these fucking books like occult knowledge or whatever. Like some ancient like fucking thing from way back when has like the secrets to living. It's like, damn, dude.
Well, what books do you mean?
Like, I don't know. Whenever I think of like a book that has like hidden knowledge, I usually think of like Hermeticism, like hermetic knowledge.
I don't even know what that is, dude, to be honest.
Well, it's basically like it's like a blend of philosophy and religious knowledge, and then it has like specific practices that you're supposed to follow in life, and then just by doing that, I don't know, you'll manifest all the things you want.
So, not necessarily religious, but more spiritual? That kind of sounds like crystal stuff.
Yeah, it kind of does. I don't even want to say spiritual.
Well, because it's not.
I want to say more cult.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting to. Because it's not religious enough to be religious, but it's not. I don't even want to say secular, but it's not as non-religious to be not religious. So I would say it's in the middle. What was it?
Hermeticism. So basically hermit, and then just ism at the end of it. It's like, I don't know, shit you would find in like teachings for like Freemasons, like that kind of shit.
What exactly is Freemasonry?
Well, from what I understand, like it was actually like way back when, like a what is it? I don't want to say club. Club's not the right word.
Well, they go all the way back to like the 8th century or whatever, right? 9th century.
Yeah, like I mean, I think it's in the name, right? Freemasons. So they were basically builders, and then, you know, all the knowledge that goes along with building.
Were they the ones that didn't want to adhere to like specific religions or something? Or am
I think so.
I think I heard something about them, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Corruption gets to Carney's corruption. LNG export plants over the last 10 years. We have seen more of those jobs go abroad. I want to bring them home. My plan will be to approve, for example, natural gas liquefaction and export. If we sent our gas to India, for example, to displace half of their demand for electricity, we could reduce emissions by 2.5 billion tons, which is 3 times the total emissions of Canada. That's the way we bring emissions down and jobs up. It's common sense, and now it's time to bring it home.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. The next question is for Mr. Carney. How would your government fast-track pipelines and mining projects while also following the Supreme Court decision that requires consent of Indigenous communities?
Well, I think the first thing, and this goes back to where we started, which is
one thing I've surprisingly never thought about is how many times what's his name, Jagmeet Singh has lost and isn't favored in any way, but he's still the leader of the NDP. It's been what, like 12, 13 years or something?
That we are in a crisis. We need to act with maximum
Yeah,
force.
like, well, I don't understand how it's treated like
a consultation, but a consultation with a purpose, which is
it's
to
not
identify
like you get hired,
those projects,
right?
those
like,
investments of
if
national
people still want
interest
you in power
that are really going to move the dial. And
like, if you're doing a shit job, that means the people don't want you. You should be fired.
Yeah, but a lot with them, like, you have to step down, and then you have to be willing to step down. Like Andrew Scheer, the last guy that ran for the Conservatives, when he lost, he just stepped down, which I'd argue wasn't even his fault.
Well, you see, I have no issue with that, but because we're not allowed to like fucking kill them, they don't really have an incentive to step down, right?
Yeah, they have no incentive to do their job well at all.
Oh, what a bunch of fucking bullshit.
in terms of growth, jobs, energy security, well-being consistent with long-term competitiveness, which necessarily means lower carbon. And so part of that process is ensuring that First Nations, Indigenous peoples are there from the start. It also includes their ability to participate fully in those projects. And that's why, and I know I can tell, like, you've got to tell on when I've gone on too long, so I'll finish up, which is, that's why we're doubling, our proposal is to double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program to $10 billion. What does that actually mean? It means an ability for them to invest equity in those projects and be full partners. Thank you.
My tell is my clock, and my clock is at 0, so that's how it goes. Monsieur Blanchet, do you still oppose pipeline construction in Quebec, even though a majority of Quebecers now apparently say they support it?
We will know about that when we have held the debate about that, which has not begun yet. We are just beginning it. First, we are hearing very creative numbers, and we are being fed nonsense. And we will be back to it in a few minutes. But energy, trade, commerce
is that guy
is
not
from south
online?
to north or north to south. And it's true in Quebec also. In a little more than 3 years, Donald Trump won't be in office, and there will be not one more pipeline having been built once we get there. So let's be serious, responsible, and we will be back with the numbers. We don't want to pay in Quebec for such monstrosities which will provide us with nothing.
We now move to open debate, and you all will get a chance, or have had a chance, to get the first shot at this. And Monsieur Blanchet, it is your turn to get the first shot. Canada has a substantial supply of critical minerals, which are in high demand. Are you in favor of allowing these minerals to be mined?
Of course. It has to be done properly. Quebec has probably the most important clean phosphate reserves in North America.
Obviously, I don't care about this guy in general, but the Quebec guy, all he talks about is Quebec in a federal debate. Like, dude, we don't care about your faggot fucking language, dude. We really
Whoa.
Dude. Hearing a French accent on a girl is fucking like at least a Quebec French is fucking horrible. It's terrible.
Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, it is very important. It has to be exploited. This is the best way to use Paul Saguenay as an infrastructure that we need. We have lithium. Everybody needs lithium. Transportation has to be taken from oil to clean energy. This is what we want to be working on. It is part of the specificities of Quebec economy. So we are in favor of that, but we don't want to pay for the $30 billion which have been spent on oil and gas by the Liberals last year. It's $7 billion from Quebec. We don't want to pay for the $40 billion which have been spent by the Liberals on Trans Mountain. It's $9 billion from Quebec. Those are $16 billion of which not $1 has been
he's saying
spent
words that I swear to you I
Quebec
don't understand what they
a lot more
how they're
power
together.
And wealth for Quebecers with our own money.
Yeah,
we need to let the
leader
of the Liberals respond.
Well, actually, I was going to pick up on the enormous opportunity that exists in Quebec, exists in Ontario.
Dude, aren't you so happy you named Pythagoras' theorem?
Yeah, I did. necessary to.
Yo, dude, you gotta calculate the slope of your bed, dog. Find the fucking hypotenuse, dog.
It's like, hey, I need Pythagoras theorem to become an architect, but I'd have to pay 50 grand a year for that fucking course. So yeah, kill yourself.
Damn.
Just on that alone, I ain't fucking wasting my shit on that.
Bro. The fucking pineal gland in your brain has fucking frozen, dog.
Why did I say that, dog?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, it like shrinks and then like shrivels up as we age.
Yeah, it does.
Oh. Yeah, I guess so.
And minerals. We are have one of the biggest resources
Dude,
in this country.
my dick is just done with me, dude.
It's not just an enormous economic opportunity; it is a
It
strategic
just
opportunity
feels like
for Canada.
it's been through like
So we
3
have to
world
make a
wars.
decision, not just to develop it,
Can't
but
fucking
how do we
take it
develop
anymore,
it,
dude.
and who are our partners for it? Do we become more dependent on the United States, which is what they want? By the way, President Trump this week said he might put a tax on
It's like if you've ever
metals
seen
and
those
minerals, just showing again.
Yeah, but
those memes or those videos of like a soldier with like dead eyes. That's what my dick is like. You know? Just has a 1,000-yard stare for everything now. Put him through the ringer, dude.
He wants a new home.
Huh?
He wants a new home.
Dude, he just wants God's salvation. I wonder how fucked my brain is because of like all the porn and fucking jerking off and all that shit. All those years, dude. I feel like I would have been fundamentally a different person without all that shit. I guess it's over though.
You think there's a way to quantify that?
Well, I don't know, like, maybe you could do like an X-ray scan, right?
But then would you
My
be able
brain?
to prove that it was because of external things, or that it's just something?
Well, can't you get brain damage from like jerking off too much or watching too much porn?
You mean like where it kills your brain cells, or where it just rewires your brain?
Well, doesn't it do both?
I don't know if it kills brain cells. Maybe it does. I just don't know.
Or like it like shorts out the circuits, right? For like reward and pleasure or whatever.
Dopamine?
It like fucks it up permanently, right?
Yeah, dopamine.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the
reliable.
job, if
I may, and so the discussions
is to
that
negotiate.
So
if
I may finish.
Let's let him finish.
Let me finish. So the opportunity includes in Europe and includes in Asia as our partners. Last point. In order to get it done, we'll put in place a first and last mile fund. So these projects are connected to road and rail so they can go quickly to market. And we will have all of the other fast tracking measures in place that I talked about earlier in terms of capital, timing, approvals, so that we can move quickly, we can be stronger at home, better.
Always with the approval of Quebec.
I think we should absolutely take advantage of the fact that we've got incredible amounts of critical minerals in our country. And the way we do that is with any energy project or any project of this nature, make sure it's got the local community buy-in. It creates good jobs in communities. make sure we are meeting all our environmental needs, and we work with Indigenous partnership. And so I absolutely agree with that. I want to build on something Mr. Blanchet mentioned about the investments that this country has made. What I found very troubling is that the past number of years, the Liberal government record is one where we have spent the most subsidies compared to any other country in the G7 on subsidizing oil and gas. These are highly profitable companies.
You voted
I think that's
for
the
it.
wrong thing to do. We fought against it again and again.
No, you voted
and then
for
the
it
Liberals have continued
over and
to do
again.
it. And so my question really to Mr. Carney is, will you commit to ending oil and gas subsidies? We should be using that to invest in people, not giving it to highly profitable oil and gas companies.
Yeah, we talked. I promised Mr. Polyev the next. We'll come back and get that question answered. Mr. Polyev.
Oh.
Well, Mr. Carney, you point out that Donald Trump has a wrong-headed idea of putting a tax on our mines and our industry. And that is wrong. But so do you. You want to apply a massive industrial carbon tax on Canadian mines, Canadian steel mills, Canadian aluminum plants,
You want to let them
Canadian oil and gas.
Shut up, Jug.
And your idea is to double the tax that Trump is applying by hitting them a second time. This will do nothing for the environment. It will actually ship our jobs south of the border,
Mr.
just
Pollier's plan is let them
like
pollute as much as they
President
want.
Trump
Not a good
wants. My plan is to bring that production home here to Canada. For example, I will give a tax credit to low-emitting Canadian industry like
You shit in the bag, dog.
aluminum, for example, or British Columbia's natural gas, so that we not only bring home the production, but we do it below global average levels of emissions.
That's why
we
you can't
actually
sleep,
help
dude.
the environment while bringing home the jobs for our people at the same time. That is a sensible, pragmatic approach that puts us in charge of our economic destiny, so we can
Doesn't that
stand
fucking
up to
hurt
the
your back?
Americans from a position of strength for a change.
Mr. Carney, we've got. Hang on a second. I want to give you a chance to speak to Mr. Singh's criticism
man.
about oil and gas subsidies, and Mr. Polyev's criticism
Seems like
about
you're
the
putting your
industrial
body
carbon
through
tax.
stress.
Okay, I'm going to make
I
3
don't need to
points.
be put
I'll
through
make 4 if
stress,
you want me to
dog.
respond to that, but I want to make 3. The first is that I answered this question last night, but I think the puck.
Could you go on his email and see if you can print it?
Nah, I can't, dog.
I forget.
Puck had already dropped in the Canadians game, so not everyone heard it. Yes, end to oil and gas subsidies. That's
why you need New Democrats.
Secondly, I would have done it independently. Secondly, recognizing that the biggest component of that was the cost of building Keystone. Keystone, which is the pipeline which has helped to increase oil and gas export, or oil exports rather, by 50% in this country. That is an asset of the people of Canada. We own it. And the question of what to do it. So it's not a subsidy that has disappeared, it's actually an asset of Canada. The third point, though, in terms of where the oil and gas industry, particularly the oil industry, wants to and needs to go, which is to become low carbon in the production and transportation of oil. One of the big projects we need to move forward with is carbon capture and storage, the Pathways project, so that we have oil and gas that is competitive, not just today, 10 years from now and 20 years from now, as the world uses less. We want to have more market share. We need to do that. My government
I do not exist.
By definition, a subsidy isn't when we buy a pipeline. I'm talking about subsidies that go to oil and gas companies. Independent, separate from the country, oil and gas companies. That's what I'm talking about.
The figure you quoted last night included the cost of the pipeline.
Do you want to address
billions
his
of
point?
dollars are spending. We got to stop spending.
Sorry, can we get you to address his point about the industrial carbon tax?
How much will the industrial carbon tax add to the price of a car?
So the first thing I want to say is I'm going to address the broader point. Broader point is the entire absence of a climate plan from Mr. Polyev, which, by the way, is going to put our industry and our country at a disadvantage as we're looking for new trading partners. Guess what? Most people want to deepen our partnership in Europe, in Asia. Those countries care about whether or not you've made progress.
China's the biggest
Second
threat,
thing is,
but they want to deepen.
we're designing a program so that the big polluters pay Canadians at home for making responsible climate choices, for retrofitting their home, getting their emissions down, or improving otherwise. And that is smart climate policy. It's better for the big polluters, and it's better for Canadians.
Chair Polyev.
Mr. Carney didn't answer my question. I asked how much would an industrial carbon tax on Canadian steel add to the price of a car. He won't answer because he knows that it will be very expensive because there's lots of steel in cars. Now, well, Mr. Carney has temporarily
But you know the answer?
hid in the carbon
answer
test.
either. You're just throwing out random
thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars.
Making it up, though. You don't
extra
know.
costs.
I do know the answer to that question. He's wrong.
When you add taxes to steel, you raise the price of everything that uses steel. When you add everything, taxes to the price. When you add the carbon tax onto the price of, for example, when you add taxes to steel, you raise the price of everything that uses steel. When you add everything, taxes to the price. When you add the carbon tax onto the price of, for example, fertilizer, you increase the price of food. So while Mr. Carney has temporarily hidden the liberal carbon tax at the pumps while keeping the tax fully in law and planning to raise it after the election, he's also going after a tax on our industry that will ultimately be passed on to you. After a lost liberal decade of rising costs, we cannot afford a fourth liberal term. We need a new government that will fully axe the carbon tax, increase the jobs that we have here in Canada, and bring down your cost of living.
We've got just a little over 3 minutes left in this segment. So, Mr. Singh, I want to ask you, do you think climate change is still a priority from Canadians? You're out there. What are you hearing?
Absolutely. You speak to any young person and they think
we're
seeing climate crisis in front of us happening right now. Speak to seniors who say, we used to be able to live in our homes. But
dude, the way he talks, it's so fucking fake. I've never heard a more fake accent ever.
Without air conditioning, and now we're seeing heat crises.
They live in their homes without air conditioning because they didn't have air conditioning when they were kids.
Weather. We're seeing flooding. We're seeing forest fires like never before. We are living in a climate crisis. So Canadians are absolutely worried about it. As soon as we come into a summer, we start seeing those forest fires again. It's top of mind for Canadians because they're living it. They're seeing.
I wonder why we see forest fires. Like even in the even 1600 years ago, people who had no concept of trading or ownership or self-defense or anything like that, they knew that they had to deal with their forest and do backburning and clean the forest, or else there'd be massive forest fires. Now, why would they know that? Oh, because they're not retards.
I want those Canadians to know Mr. Carney's not going to end those fossil fuel subsidies unless I'm there to fight back. Mr. Polyev wants to let big polluters pollute as much as they want, poison our beautiful land, our water, and air. He wants to let them dump into our oceans. I'm going to fight back and defend our environment.
Monsieur Blanchet, on the issue of whether or not people still care about climate change.
I think people should be kept very informed about climate change because we are in a very strange denial situation about climate change, which still exists and is very expensive.
Damn dog,
and I'm sorry to crash your party, guys, but you are telling fairy tales. Clean oil and gas is a fairy tale.
That door that opens or whatever.
Oh, say that again.
The door.
What about the door?
The redstone or whatever, the pistons.
Yeah, but what about it, dog?
Did you make that?
Not for the one that I was.
Nice.
About, but I have made one like it.
Yeah, dude.
Sequestration, sorry, I'm French, is a fairy tale. It does not exist. If Alberta wanted oil and gas and
as a member of the
pollution, I wouldn't mind at all.
The dying
That's
race.
Their business.
Can you comment on the state of white people, dog?
Quebec is clean energy. We are the best place in the world to.
Damn, dude. But isn't everybody suicidal?
I don't see non-white countries implementing a suicide program.
Damn.
And I don't see those countries allowing foreign.
Just mean
come in and take over.
Non-developed versus developed, basically.
Huh?
Non-developed versus developed, basically. Countries.
Sure. And those developed countries are the only ones allowing foreign people to take over their country. Do you know the most common baby name for in 2024?
Mohammed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now think of how ironic that is. England was one of the big crusader nations back in the day, and now they're allowing their country to be taken over 1,000 years later. Literally 1,000 years. It only took them 1,000 years, but they're allowing it to happen.
Yep.
It's insane. And I think I told you, if you bring it up to Muslims, they won't even deny that they're trying to take it over. Like, go on the internet and say
Allah Akbar.
England, you're letting them, like, I don't know, like, overtake you, and then they'll literally be like, it's, your time is over, you're getting conquered now, or some shit. It's all gonna be that. They're not gonna be like, oh no, we just want to live in a better place. No, it's like you're getting conquered.
So what, dog? You'll end up with 3 wives.
The likelihood is no. I'll be dead before that happens.
Why?
Because it's not gonna. They're not gonna be completely victorious by then, so it's still gonna go to shit, and then they're gonna have to revolt later.
You could just move to a Muslim country, dog.
To achieve that, our market
Grow
is
out your
the
beard some more.
northeastern part, Democrat part of United States. We want to keep our money to create wealth in Quebec for Quebecers. Let us be different because we can afford
the
to
last place.
Let me give. I will get to you because I said I would.
Take over would be.
But you've taken a couple of hits here, and I want to give you a chance to
Antarctica,
respond
maybe?
to some of the things the people on this side of the stage have said.
Thank you. Well, first of all, we do support protecting the environment. We want to ban the dumping of raw sewage into our waters. We want to hold large corporations to high environmental standards to protect our water and air. But we cannot do that by raising taxes and sending jobs overseas, as Mr. Carney is proposing to do. That has been the approach of the last 10 years of the Liberal government. What the biggest companies that develop our resources say is that we need to repeal the Liberal anti-development law C-69, a law Mr. Carney wants to keep in place. They say we need to repeal the industrial carbon tax and get rid of the Liberal energy cap. We need 6 months approval in
Aren't
order
we like
to
the
get
first generation to
take
be
back
worse off than our
energy
parents?
security and energy sovereignty.
We can summarize that. He wants to include as much as
Mr.
possible.
Carney, hang on.
But
But if I get into this conversation with my retarded cousin tomorrow, she'll be like, "Oh no, things were way worse back then." It's like, bro, are you fucking retarded? Yeah, I'm gonna have to fucking see her tomorrow.
Damn, dude. She gonna hide the Easter eggs for you, dog. You guys don't fucking do the whole Easter egg hunt thing.
Not there.
The fuck is wrong with you people, dog?
And I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling good, yeah. Oh.
I just hope when the war breaks out, I'm in the middle of the office and like a bomb goes off and like everybody just gets killed and I'm
Like,
the only one left.
Like Fury or Stray Shell?
Yeah, dude. And then like if there's like I don't know, like a couple survivors, like the ones that are fucking annoying, just pretend to go up to them to make sure they're okay and just toss them out the window. It's like, oh, the bomb threw them out the window. Like, so tragic, so horrible. Or just pick up a piece of fucking brick and just repeatedly like smash their head and be like, oh, the building, it collapsed. It hit her head.
Oh, that's funny, dude. It's funny how you specifically said her.
Oh yeah, that's just who I'm picturing, right? Fucking hell.
Word to Mr. Carney in this segment.
When's the last time you used the pencil or a pen?
I was born in Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories, just north of what the oil sands became.
Oh,
when I was born and when I was growing up in Edmonton, early days, it was a fairy tale.
It feels like it's been forever since I've used
Canadian ingenuity, Canadian engineers, Canadian governments, both the federal government and the Alberta government got together and converted this.
The worst pollution.
If I may, may I finish? May I finish? May I finish?
10 more seconds to finish, please. Let him finish his point.
That's the opportunity we have. That's the opportunity we have in carbon capture. That's the opportunity we have in small modular
even when I'm at
That's
home,
the opportunity we have in hydrogen beyond. This country can be a clean energy superpower. My government will help deliver it.
And that is time for this segment. Gentlemen, let us go to our final theme, which is called Leading in a Crisis.
You just cracked your knuckles, dude.
Canadians know how to weather a storm. Canadians know how to get through
God
a difficult
damn,
time.
dude.
If at the end of the day we end up with the balance of power, Quebec is safer than it could be in any other scenario.
Now is not a time for weakness. Now is the time to take back control.
Apparently, that Harry Potter kid, he's gonna get some like disease for some shit.
Harry Potter kid? Who's that?
What is his name? Daniel Radcliffe.
What do you mean he's gonna get a disease?
Oh, he's got like a condition. The one that makes you like shake like a fucking dog. I think so.
Should I play with him or should I not?
You gotta play with him. Get the platinum. Max Verstappen offered £226 million to leave Red Bull and join F1 rival. I wonder who the rival is.
Mercedes.
It's Aston Martin. Formula One world champion Max Verstappen is set to receive a $226 million offer to leave Red Bull and join rivals Aston Martin, according to reports. The Dutchman, currently in action at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, has dominated blah 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 blah.
Drops the gloves.
Okay, leading in a crisis is a pretty broad theme that allows us to explore many different avenues here. So let's get to it. Mr. Carney, you get the first question this time. We haven't balanced a budget in this country in 17 years, and 10 of those years were under your party. You have pledged to get us to a balanced budget in 3 years.
Outlet La Gazzetta dello Sport now reports that Saudi's Public Investment Fund (PIF) prepared to offer $264 million euros or £226 million over 3 years in order to bring Verstappen to Silverstone-based Aston Martin.
You need to respond in a crisis with overwhelming force. You need to think big. You need to move rapidly. The things we've been discussing today are a subset of what we can and should do as a nation, and we can deliver.
He's our age, right?
Government can play a role, but its role has to be catalyzed. And so our approach is that we will slow the rate of spending. It's been growing
overwhelming
at 9%
force,
a year.
catalytic, buzzword,
away from transfers into 9% a year. We'll slow that to 2%. We will focus on a small amount of capital spending by the federal government in order to drive enormous
basically,
private
when I was a kid, I should have been
trillion
I should
by
have
5
been
years. Thank you, Mr.
fucking F1
Ukraine
prospect.
surely constitutes a crisis, leading in a time of crisis. Mr. Polyev, question for you. If the United States withholds support from Ukraine going forward, do you believe Canada should commit more to assist?
I believe we should continue to support Ukraine.
I don't know what Lewis Hamilton's dad did, but Max Verstappen's dad raced during Michael Schumacher was racing. So late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh.
I don't know what. Well, Charles Leclerc. He's from Monaco, so his parents
I guess it's fucking over, dog.
Our party supported donating missiles that the Canadian military was decommissioning. We supported funds and other armaments to back the Ukrainians in the defense of their sovereignty. We also need to rebuild our own Canadian military because the Russians want to make incursions into our waters. We'll be buying 4 massive Arctic icebreakers. I'll be opening the first Arctic base since the Cold War in Canada, CFB Iqaluit. We're going to double the size of the Arctic Rangers and fill the vacancies in our Canadian armed forces. We need a change to rebuild our military, which has been so disintegrated under the cuts, the mismanagement of the last 10 years. But we can have a change because we have the best soldiers, sailors, and airmen in the world, and they will have full backing from my government if you give me the honor of becoming Prime Minister.
I may come back to that one in the open forum because I'm not sure we got an answer about Ukraine on that one, but okay. Going on. Monsieur Blanchet.
Sure, the answer was yes.
We'll get more details, perhaps, as we go forward. Monsieur Blanchet, given the U.S. trade war, should any talk of a referendum on Quebec's independence be put on pause?
That's not easy. It will happen only after the negotiation is over, and that's a good thing. I want to say I support the idea. We must help Ukraine, but we also must help the civilians of Gaza, and we must destroy Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. You know what? I don't want to be the leader of Canada. You will understand that. I don't want to be Prime Minister. But I can offer to be a partner, a responsible partner, a collaborative partner. If Quebec is respected in its differences, its aluminum industry, lumberwood industry, and culture, and French language, and values of secularity of the state, which is the price to pay in order to have real equality, then if we are respected, we will be a partner, and then even Canada will be stronger in its negotiation against Donald Trump. This is what I am offering. Respect us.
Canada has
Mr.
military of 50,000.
I watched last night's debate. You seem very eager to talk about healthcare, so let's talk a little more healthcare right now. You have made many promises on healthcare. If a province says to you, we'll take your money for healthcare, but not your conditions on how to spend it, what do you do?
We've got to negotiate. We can't be giving away money without clear conditions. We're in a healthcare crisis right now, and a crisis that is hurting people across this country. People are waiting desperately in line in emergency rooms for hours and hours. Seniors are waiting for years and years to get the care that they need for surgeries that would remove pain or help them deal with mobility issues. We're in a serious crisis. Healthcare workers are burnt out. They are overstretched. And what we're seeing is more and more privatization, and that is hurting our public universal healthcare system. So we've got to fight back again. We cannot allow our public money to go to a for-profit private clinic lining the pockets of a rich CEO or investors instead of going towards care. We need to make sure that we are investing in solutions where care gets to people, not profiting those at the very top. And so that's my commitment. I'm going to fight to make sure we defend our healthcare against the threats of Americanization and privatization.
Okay, we now go to open forum debate, and perhaps, Mr. Poilievre, you get the first word here. This might be a good time to put a little more flesh on the bone of what you think Canada could do for Ukraine if the U.S. backs up.
Yes, and my answer is that we should continue to support Ukraine. We don't need to follow the Americans in everything they do. When they're wrong, and we will stand on our own and with other allies. And with respect to Ukraine, that of course includes support with intelligence, equipment, armaments, but it also includes defunding Putin. Right now, Vladimir Putin has a monopoly on the European energy market because, frankly, the Liberals block exports of Canadian natural
break your
gas
goddamn
off the
keyboard,
Atlantic coast.
dog.
They've blocked multiple projects. I would rapidly approve those projects on national security grounds so that we can actually ship Canadian natural gas over to Europe, break
what kind of switches do you have
on Putin, defund the war, and turn dollars for dictators back into paychecks for our people.
Mr. Carney, you wanted to add.
Well, I want to go to the situation in Ukraine. It's very important. We've been a steadfast, Canada's been a steadfast ally, and Canadians have stepped up, welcoming Ukrainians into their homes and supporting them in other ways. My first month as Prime Minister, we joined the coalition of the willing to support Ukraine as the U.S. stepped back. So led by France, the United Kingdom, with Ukraine numbering European nations, Australia, and South New Zealand. That's an example of how the new world is going to be. Canada participating in these areas and helping. It also means open trade. Mr. Poilievre voted against free trade agreement with Ukraine. It means aid for Ukraine. Mr. Poilievre wants to cut foreign aid, including for Ukraine, or not. Didn't mention support for aid for Ukraine. We have to stand by them. We have to be there, and this government does.
Mr. Singh.
New Democrats absolutely support standing with Ukraine, and will continue to do that. But I appreciate the opportunity in talking about leadership in crisis, talk about many of the crises that we're up against. And one of the crises we're up against in our country, with the threat of Donald Trump, with the threat of the trade war, and with the privatization and Americanization of our healthcare system, is the healthcare system. And what we have learned today, Mr. Carney mentioned slowing operations spending. That's a cut to services. He said his plan. He has a plan to balance the operating budget within 3 years. That's going to require massive cuts in spending. We calculated that at $43 billion in cuts. In fact, Rosemary Barton, when he was on the show on February 16th, he said cut spending. He said it would be in operations. He defined it as transfers in health. And finally, longtime Liberal and former House Leader Karina Gould said that Mr. Carney's plans would mean massive cuts. It's the only way to achieve it. So, Mr. Carney, you think it is leadership to cut health care at a time when it is a crisis? I think it is wrong. You can't do that.
We will not cut transfers for health care. We will not cut health care full stop.
But
we'll
Mr.
have
Carney,
a detail, if I may.
Who do we believe, Mr. Carney, today, or the one who spoke on Rosemary Barton's show on February 16th, the one that repeated again that he would cut spending? Who do we believe?
If I may. Consistently said, we'll preserve all the transfers to the provinces, including the increases. We will preserve all the transfers to individuals, I won't detail them all, but there. So we're looking at addressing operational spend, which is about $150 billion. We will address that. We will make it more efficient, and we will do it in 3 years, and we'll balance that budget.
Monsieur Blanchet.
I am 6
They will balance that
behind
budget.
Mr. Carney, so I will speak a little bit longer. First, I will support any initiative which will.
Oh, dude, I wish I could see the pyramids
I will support
like they
any
originally were.
Which will bring aligned with Europe and NATO in order to be stronger and facing new threats. I believe that 2% won't be enough. I'm not more in favor
Yeah, I don't know how I
of
feel
war
about that.
than anybody else, but we have responsibilities, and our main ally is removing himself from the stage. So we have to step up. We have to do our part. I want to go somewhere else entirely, however. I want to ask Mr. Carney.
Would you want them to do that?
We're speaking about leadership here. if Quebec and Canada were to say, you are not being given a majority government, there will be more conservatives than you would like, maybe more New Democrats than you would like, and more people from the bloc than you would like.
What if they put a flag on it? Like
Will you accept,
an
because you
LGBTQ
don't
flag?
seem to be very eager about that, to deal with people which basically are more experienced than you are, as legitimate as you are, and would be more representative altogether than you would be being alone in your little
somewhere else.
And I want also to propose to you all guys that 1 week after the election,
it's only the 3 main pyramids.
we all what are the results, and we start dealing with this crisis together, because this is what people, either they are from Alberta or Quebec or wherever, this is what people expect from us.
Mr. Carney, is that something you could get behind?
I look forward to.
What if they were redoing the pyramids, but they came to your house and were like, look, we gotta take the Chevelle, we need the money.
But in all seriousness,
that's not very respectful.
No, but I'll
that's
come.
not
but
very
I'm
respectful.
I'm coming.
What would you do then?
On peut jaser un peu. Okay, I come to the.
On peut jaser. Shut your face, Carney.
Look, in a crisis, yes, you need a team, and you need to bring the country along with you. So what I did in the first week was to bring the premiers together, meet with all the Indigenous leaders, and move forward in that context. Now, the question is who's going to lead out of this? Whoever leads out of this, if I may, Mr. Blanchet, whoever, merci, thank you. Whoever's going to lead out of this is going to need to work.
How's your dog doing since he got clipped?
Work with Indigenous leaders. Work with all Canadians to bring them forward in a united front. And one of, and
if somebody cut your balls off,
one of the things that has happened, which is a credit.
Somebody asked that person who did it,
is the Canadian
if you're good, and they're like, yeah, he's fine. What would you say to that person?
The strength of Canadian unity.
Still lagging. I have one small point to make. You will be elected, if you are elected, in the parliament where there are other leaders. I don't know if he called you, or Mr. Poilev, I don't know if he called you, but before yesterday, you have not spoken to
and
me
imagine
once.
they said it
Even
like, oh no, we got him fixed.
But you say, I speak to provinces leaders. You're not elected in provinces. You are in the parliament where people are to make decisions which might not always
there are
suit
pets.
you. But this is the
so I guess we can do whatever the fuck we want.
I'm going to jump in here because I'm noticing what the clock is saying, and you brought up Gaza earlier, and I think our audience.
It's like, why not just get a girl dog? Cut the dog's balls off.
Before we get that, just to finish up on the healthcare, I just want to speak to healthcare workers right now.
When it gets its period.
For healthcare system, Canadians believe in universal public healthcare system.
But I still like.
We're stressed out. If you're worried about,
was your dog like jerking off everywhere?
Today or the one who spoke on previous shows and said he would cut. Vote for New Democrats.
I think you're supposed to really like to hear what you have to say about this question, and we have less than 5 minutes.
Think of how much more your dog would have loved you if you got it like a female dog prostitute every now and then.
In the Middle East and the war in Gaza. Pierre Poilievre, would you start us off on that? What role can Canada
play? That dog would fucking kill anybody
first of all, we must condemn Hamas, and more importantly, the terror sponsors
I wonder what would happen
in Tehran
if we were able to talk to animals and like somebody explained
of October 7th.
What their owners did to them.
To defeat the terrorists, so that
would you feel safe around your dog?
The world and defend the right of Palestinians to have their own lives free from the oppression of Hamas,
like if some
and Iranian intervention, while
animal
Israel
communicator
has the ability to live free and
explain to your dog like,
we
hey,
need to get back to the Canadian tradition, which is that when people come to this country,
you know how you
they
woke
leave
up one day,
foreign conflicts behind.
You didn't have
rampaging riots targeting Jewish communities
your
is
owners
utterly
did that
unacceptable,
to you.
And it points
like,
to the growing chaos
right
that we see on our streets after 10 years of incredibly irresponsible liberal policy on weak borders, of dividing people into groups, of saying one thing to one
just going to sleep and then waking up
to
and
another,
don't have balls.
We must end that division and unite our people so that everyone feels safe, and that when we come here, put our foreign conflicts behind, and we
that's
Canada
people.
first.
People come from countries from around the
Fucking
world.
laugh
Care deeply about where they come
after
from.
you're done
And they should be able
doing
to
this warm-up shit, the guy's offline.
to have that freedom.
No, shut the
Your treatment of Palestinians has been frankly disgusting. Your treatment of people who provide care and service for people in Gaza has been disgusting. On top of that,
The
people in
fact that
Israel
Joe
and in
Easton
Gaza
is
deserve to live in
basically a
peace and
terrorist
security.
sympathizer.
And Mr. Carney today does not acknowledge that what's going on in Gaza is now clearly become a genocide. It's important to call things out as they are, and you've not done that.
Mr. Carney, we need to work, to go to your point, we need to work with our international partners, maximum pressure, maximum encouragement for an immediate ceasefire. Let's first encourage the return of all of the hostages.
The ones that haven't been murdered.
Yeah. My government put in place $100 million of humanitarian aid,
My
which
government?
is ready to go.
Well, I thought it wasn't his
with
government.
respect to where this ultimately goes. Yes, it's a state solution, but it has to be a viable and free Palestinian state, living side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel. I will underscore one other thing. Mr. Poilievre rightly mentioned Iran. The Iranian sponsors in this region, we have to be clear-eyed about the fundamental risks of Iran and do everything with our international partners to check it and turn it.
If we are to work together, we will have to be consistent. The Jewish community in Quebec and Canada is harassed by a very little minority of radical Islamists. And we
Very
don't
little
do
minority
so, don't
of
do so
1.6
much.
billion
The
people
law
is quite a big
in Canada
number.
says that somebody may invite people to be violent, to propose genocide against another people, if they can be hidden behind a religious motivation. They are in agreement with that. They are in agreement with that. They are in agreement with that. And we say it is a crime to invite people to violence and killing other people. And this is what is being done very often in Canada, in Quebec, with the approval of the Criminal Code of Canada. And we are saying this has to be changed. We have to change what we do before we want people elsewhere to change what we do.
Last minute in the segment, Mr. Poilievre.
This is about crises and leadership. And one crisis we have is in immigration. Because of this Liberal government's commitment to a radical policy called the Century Initiative, which seeks to bring our population up to 100 million people, they have allowed massive overcrowding in our communities. That has caused housing shortages, job shortages,
blame immigration
and healthcare
for
shortages.
your government.
And if I could,
the fact that you
Shut your
did not
face,
interrupt
Doug.
you.
He's making a point.
6 homes.
I did not interrupt you. I do not blame
Your
if I
failure.
could.
Cut his mic off, you freaking
I do not blame immigrants. I blame the Liberal government, which brought this policy on. And Mr. Carney wants to continue with the Century Initiative. This is crazy. We have to get back to normal levels of immigration. Get rid of the fraud in the temporary immigration system
What are normal
and
levels?
ensure that the people who
What
come
are
here
normal levels?
arrive in numbers that we can house, employ,
What are those
and care
numbers?
for. That's how it always was, and that's how we're going to restore
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Poilievre. That is our time for this segment. Those are our 5 themes, but we are not done yet. We are entering the next section of our debate tonight, what we're calling the leader's choice. Something a little bit different. Each of you will get the chance to ask a question, any question, of any other leader. You can then debate the answer, and each one on one will last for 3 minutes.
I like this.
So, Mr. Singh, you have the first option here. Who do you want to ask your question of?
Mr. Carney.
Yes. Okay, fine.
Mr.
I like
Carney,
it now,
as
Doug.
chair of Brookfield Investments,
Yes.
your company is one of the biggest tax dodgers in Canada.
Good.
As chair, you took decisions
I
where
love
Brookfield
Doug. I mean, I
Investments
take
bought
back
up
everything I've ever said.
affordable homes, kicked out the tenants, and jacked up the rates. As Prime Minister, one of the first things you did was a tax cut that helped out mostly millionaires.
I'm joking,
and
Doug. I still hate
you have
Doug.
planned to cut services for people. Now, I expect that of Mr. Pierre Poilievre. The Conservatives, that's very
Shut
much
your
a
filthy mouth
Conservative
and
plan.
just get back to Carney.
But my concern is that doesn't sound like what people want for a Liberal leader. So my question to you is, Mr. Carney, whose side are you on?
China.
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Singh. I'm on the side of Canadians. I'm in this for Canadians. I work for Canadians.
He spent a decade in the UK.
But
You know, I
doesn't
had
show that,
no, I have a track record of public service for this country. Going back to something Mr. Blanchet referenced, which is have I resolved any crises? We're in Quebec. If you ask anyone in the finance industry, if you ask anyone in government in Quebec in 2008, they'll know that I've resolved the biggest crisis in Quebec. Yeah.
You won't have
but
60 million.
But in fairness, with Mr.
This is for these two.
Yes, I have had a long career in the private sector. I'm proud of that career. I've always acted with integrity, and it brings me with experience that I can apply in this moment of crisis.
And you certainly have served the country. But the problem is who have you served? You've served to benefit those at the very top. You jacked up the price of homes for people living in affordable homes as a strategic decision. You dodge taxes. And then your decisions as Prime Minister show you're not prioritizing people, you're prioritizing big business, billionaires.
So the what have we done?
This guy say, why was on the couch
using all of our proceeds from the tariffs, committing all of them for workers, the workers most affected in industries. Unlike others who plan to use them to cut taxes.
Look, I hate junk meat, but I kind of
focus on.
You have to accept that. Right now,
there will be additional programs. I am fully confident that the next government, whatever government is formed, or certainly if I'm in the next government, we will make additional programs. Well, I can't. You couldn't, given that we're in an election process.
Could have increased.
May I make a core point, which is that when you think about workers here today and people watching, particularly younger people, there is an enormous opportunity in the trades, in the skilled trades. We are going to build this country in a way that has not been seen before. We are literally talking about hundreds of thousands, not jobs, but careers in the trades. And that's why we're investing in apprenticeships in mid-career.
But I think people are worried, Mr. Carney, if New Democrats aren't there to force the vote to make sure they remember about people they will forget.
Gentlemen, that is time. Thank you for that. Mr. Blanchet,
you
have the next question. To whom would you like to
congratulations.
Mr. Carney, you avoided quite eloquently the questions of Mr. Singh, but first, let me correct something. In 2008, not so much by your decision, $10 billion were given to our industry and party, while $60 billions of dollars were lent to lumberwood throughout the whole of Canada. I don't believe that's the right way to manage a crisis since you did not recoup the money from the companies. Then, you have been the manager of Brookfield. It's supposed to be a green investment fund. But we now know that 50% of the investments of Brookfield is in fossil fuel.
I love
it. It's not so green.
He's so good.
You seem to want to support oil and gas industry. That's interesting. Yeah. You want to support housing, and it's also in the investments of Brookfield, Canada. You want to support nuclear power, smaller reactors, which are more dangerous, by the way, and Brookfield has investments in Westinghouse. You have hidden the money of Brookfield in Bermuda and Cayman Islands. Billions of dollars lost
not Pierre.
for Canada. You are having your taxes being paid by workers. Elders in Canada and Quebec instead of paying your own taxes. So I want to know, will you, before the election, reveal all the details of your assets, as Mr. Singh has done, as Mr. Poirier has done, and as I have done? We have a right to know under those circumstances.
Let's let him answer.
Well, the first thing is, I want to say a word about, I'll say a word about this. This is a Canadian success story. It is the largest infrastructure investment in the world. It is one of the largest, if not the largest, developer of renewable power in the world.
And it moved to New York.
Who benefits from that? That's Canadian pensions. That's Quebec pensions. That is teachers. That firefighters. It is a series of people, including individuals on this stage.
Yeah, him.
Benefit from that.
Him.
Now, always acted with integrity. Serve the shareholders of Brookfield when I was there. I have left that. I have followed all the rules well in advance. I have followed all the rules well in advance.
Show your assets like we all did.
And working for the people of Canada.
What do you own? Why don't you tell Canadians
that is what you own? Monsieur Blanchet, we're moving on to Mr. Polyev now, who has his opportunity to ask the question of whomever he'd like here, and that will be?
Mr. Carney, but if I could begin by setting the stage. The choice in this election is, after a lost Liberal decade of rising cost and crime and a falling economy under America's thumb, do we want to elect them to a 4th term?
Under the
Or
Liberals' thumb.
do we want to change? Change so that you can afford food and homes. Change so that you can be safe on your street, and change so that your paycheck grows faster than your cost of living. Change with a new conservative government. Because Mr. Carney is not changing.
And not living.
Mr. Carney, in 2020, it was recorded, you began advising Justin Trudeau.
Oh, there you go.
It's on the Liberal Party website today that you are Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. They might want to update the website.
Clip it.
On June 3rd of
Look at Carney's face.
2021.
He actually just looked to the side.
You said
Clip it.
that inflation would be a sign of economic progress. And you advised governments, including Justin Trudeau, your Liberal government, to print money, which led to the worst inflation crisis in a generation. Now, that means that mothers went to bed with empty fridges and empty bank accounts, worried how they'd feed their kids, that seniors worried they'd be evicted from their homes, that young people believed they'd never be able to own a home in the first place. Now, in retrospect, you look back on the Liberal decisions that you advised Justin Trudeau to take. Will you look at the camera in the eye and apologize to the many people who suffered as a result of the inflationary policies that you advised Justin Trudeau to implement?
Yes.
I said earlier.
This is
so
the
I'm gonna
moment.
Say it again.
This is the moment.
I know you want to be running against Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau isn't here.
Are you denying
I am here.
Economic advisor?
I did not provide any of that advice. I did not provide any of that advice.
On the Liberal Party
I'm sorry.
Are you confusing your
This
Liberal
is it.
Party?
This is the election moment right now.
It says today you can go to the Liberal Party website now, and it says that you were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor.
This is the moment of the election.
The way you judge someone, is how they, what they do when they have responsibility.
Holy
Twice
shit.
on the central bank.
This is it.
And in both cases,
If
if I may, in both cases when I was responsible for inflation was less than 2%. I'll add that when I was here responsible for the Bank of Canada, inflation was less than 2%. Our dollar was at parity. That is the kind of success that I can deliver for this country coming out of this crisis. And what is at stake here? What is at stake here? What is at stake if we bring it back? If I may bring it back,
because the policies that you implemented, those of the MPs that are still in your ministry,
to the
fellow Canadians, crisis. The last 10 years has been about the Liberals. The next 10 years should be about you.
And that's time.
Holy crab apples, people! You can snip that and clip that. That's the moment of the debate.
Actually, I'm going to ask a question which, it's troubling me because we are in a.
Hold on a second. I'm not right. I'm not maybe right. I am right. That was the moment of the election. That's going to be snipped. I'm going to
we're in a dangerous
go watch
divided
this. I'm
world.
going to go clip that right now.
That was the challenges in the Middle East.
That was cray.
The threat from Iran.
That was totally invading.
Threat from Russia's aggression in Ukraine.
Oh, you just said Russia too.
We have the threat from China. We have the United States, which is fundamentally changing its security relationships, its commercial relationships. We have all this. And in the context of that, everyone on this stage, Mr. Blanchet, Mr. Singh, myself, we have our top secret security.
He's taking Justin Trudeau's talking
3 weeks. It wasn't hard, but I felt it was important that I had it so I could be in a position to be informed about that dangerous world and take decisions that. And Mr. Polyev, it is now 950 days, if my numbers are right.
Oh my God! This is the moment. All of this.
Get your topic.
Do you know what he's going to say right now?
And you've
Pierre's
refused.
not stupid. I'm gonna go sign on with an NDA.
Well, first of all, I have got my security clearance when I was a minister. I got top secret clearance at the time, so there's no problem getting that. But when the government made this recent offer, they said that if I got the secret security clearance briefing, that I would be gay.
Oh,
under
I'm so freaking smart. I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
The government made this recent offer. They said that if I got the secret security clearance briefings, that I would be gay.
Oh,
under
I'm
the
so
security
freaking
law,
smart. I'm
and
leaving.
I could be
I'm leaving.
prosecuted if I spoke freely about matters of foreign interference. Now, given that Canada has experienced Chinese interference by Beijing, the government of China, in 2 consecutive elections, I needed to do my job to speak freely without fear of prosecution. And that was not something I would be allowed to do. Even
God,
Thomas
Carney just
Mulcair,
fell
the
into-
former leader of the NDP, said that when he was the leader of the opposition, he never would have accepted the kind of gag order that your government and Mr. Trudeau's government was attempting to impose on me. And it's good that I'd made that decision, because it has allowed me to speak freely about things like the case where one of your candidates, sir, actually said that he wanted to send a political opponent to China under a bounty threatening his life or imprisonment. And you refused to get rid of him. Now, it might have something to do with the fact that you went to China not long ago to get a $250 million loan for your company. But the reality is, you refused to stand up for a Canadian who was being threatened by a foreign government. And I was able to speak freely on that matter because I refused the gag order that the Liberal government attempted to impose on me.
Well,
let him
there's a couple
respond.
interesting
Please,
things.
add the flame emojis.
I think people at home have seen a robust debate here, and it's been a robust campaign. And it has not stopped Mr. Blanchet or Mr. Singh at times in his campaign by making challenges with respect to these issues. So one can address it. I will observe, as someone with the top secret security clearance, that China is not the only country that is accused of foreign interference. And
tell us how many other ones are accused.
That's our time. Now, closing statements are still a few minutes down the road, so we have a little bit of time for some quick hit Q&As for each of you right now.
I may have
short questions, 45 seconds, please, on the answers, and we're going to go left to right as I look at you right now. Mr. Polyev, you get the first question. To the best of my knowledge, you have not offered a hard timeline, as the other parties have, to meet Canada's NATO commitment of 2% spending on defense. When would you hit that target?
This moment on matters
My aim
right
will
now.
be to 2030.
We just saw history.
That said, when we renegotiate our trade deal with the U.S., I know it's their priority to see us increase our military budget. One of the things I will say to the Americans is the more free trade, tariff-free free trade we have, the faster we can rebuild our military in Canada and reassert our sovereignty. And we will use that money to have heavy icebreakers in the north, Poseidon aircraft, fighter jets, a new base in the north, double the Arctic Rangers, fill the vacancies in the armed forces, and rebuild the warrior spirit that characterized our military since the birth of our country. We will rebuild our forces, and we will stand behind our veterans.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. Mr. Carney, your question. You have cut both the consumer carbon tax and the capital gains tax increase that you inherited from your predecessor.
Inherited? He
Is
advised
that
on
an
it.
admission that the Liberals made life less affordable for Canadians?
I'm sorry,
I think let me give you the rationale behind both of those changes. First, with respect to the consumer carbon tax, in effect, it become too divisive for Canadians. Canadians received rebates on the whole. They
became too
received
divisive,
more than
meaning
the
nobody
tax
liked it,
actually
you
was.
effing idiot.
But some had represented that it was a tax without a rebate. It became divisive. It didn't serve its purpose. It made a relatively modest contribution to overall climate goals. I got rid of it. First act made Canadians whole. Secondly, but with respect to the capital gains tax, it's come up again, I'll be quick. This is a fundamental issue. We need to build this country. Builders, innovators, entrepreneurs need to be rewarded. That's why I brought it back.
And that's time. Thank you. Mr. Singh, would you change the existing cap on immigration?
I've said that the level of immigration, first of all, we need immigration. It's fundamentally important to our country. And we speak to any small business owner, you speak to people here in Quebec, you speak to farmers. It's fundamentally important. A couple of things, though, we know we need to be able to set the amount of folks that we welcome to our country at a level that it meets our needs. So I would ensure that we've got an expert panel that makes that determination based on our economic needs. We also know that we should be very clear that the lack of investment from Liberals and Conservatives resulted in the fact that we have a shortage in housing. That's something that we've got to fix. I should also point out that if you are worried about the cuts being proposed by Liberals and Conservatives, vote for New Democrats. We'll fight back to protect Canadians and make sure that we've got the right immigration levels.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. That's time. Mr. Blanchet, Quebec, I believe, is now the only province with a carbon tax. Do you think that's fair?
It's not entirely true. It's not a tax. What Quebec has is a system by which we invite big emission companies, I don't know how to translate that, to reduce their emissions. If they do not, then they have to pay. It goes into a fund which is invested then in reducing emissions. Our partner is California, which makes this a huge deal about reducing emissions. This is what we do. This is be compared to what Europe does. And by the way, Europe would impose tariffs on Canadian oil if it ever got there. We're quite proud of that. And we have to be responsible because this is much less expensive than doing nothing to fight climate.
That's time. We're going to do another set of quick hits here, left to right again, and 30 seconds this time. Monsieur Poilievre, you've previously promised to defund the CBC as one of your very first acts as Prime Minister. Is that still the plan?
Yes, CBC will continue to operate as a self-funded, Canadian-owned and controlled non-for-profit that raises money like other media organizations through sponsorships, subscriptions, advertising, licensing fees, and countless other things that will ensure Canadians who still want to listen and view its content will be able to do so. And at the same time, we'll allow freedom of the press so that everybody has their voice heard and they can make their own decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. The next question to you, 30 seconds. Would you remove some of Canada's legal tax avoidance loopholes that companies that you have worked for have used?
Look, I think that what we need to do is undertake a comprehensive review of our corporate tax system and do that on the basis of the right principles. We've got to have fairness, transparency, sustainability, and competitiveness. So we need a tax system, a corporate tax system, including being part of a international minimum corporate tax through the OECD.
And that is time. Mr. Singh, the question for you is, if you hold the balance of power after this election is over, what would your price be to support another party?
We've laid out our priorities. We want to make sure we bring down the cost of groceries, build homes that people can afford. I can also tell you that we would defend CBC, unlike Mr. Poilievre wants to cut it, and we would close tax loopholes and offshore tax havens, even though Mr. Carney didn't respond to that, and selling stocks and shares to make profits and then having less taxes on that is not hard work. And so those aren't the job creators. The people who are job creators are the hardworking men and women that contribute to our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Monsieur Blanchet, kind of the same question. If you hold the balance of power in the next minority parliament, if it is that, what would be the price of your support?
Respect for Quebec. That's quite easy. I don't want to go against what Canada wants to do for itself, but I don't want Canada to impose an economic vision or a multiculturalist vision on Quebec, which is different in terms of language and values and secularity and equality between people. So I want to be a partner, and if Quebec is respected, Canada has nothing to fear from the bloc because we vote for what is good for Quebec. It only has to be good for Quebec.
Thank you, Monsieur Blanchet. Now, we have one last question for each of you. We'll go right to left this time as I look at you. Bit of an offbeat question. Mr. Blanchet, what is your biggest regret during this campaign?
That's a very good question. I'm not very fond of regrets, I would say, but we should have started sooner to see that we had to create the environment for a deal in which Quebec and Canada would be one bigger than the other, but partners to be stronger in front of Mr. Trump and showing that maybe nobody here is the partner to let go alone without being surveyed or controlled or supervised by a Quebec voice.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchet. Same question, Mr. Singh. Your biggest regret of this campaign?
Not being able to meet as many people as I would love to have. It's a short campaign, and so I can't get to as many communities that I wanted to. I think one of the honors of my job is to be able to meet people and to hear their stories, and then to take their stories and concerns and bring them to Ottawa and to fight for those people. And so I want you to know, even if I haven't made it to your community, I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that you're represented, that we never let any government cut our healthcare, that we defend the values that we care so deeply about. We make my life more affordable. That's my commitment to you. Even if I didn't get to see you, that's my commitment.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Mr. Carney, same question. Biggest regret of the campaign?
I'm to be honest, it's the same answer. This is an astonishing country. It is an amazing country. And the opportunity and the responsibility that comes with it of being with Canadians, hearing their stories, their challenges, drawing strength and ideas from them, and working to be part of the solution is the greatest honor of my life. But the regret is that it is also a big country, and it is a short period of time.
Mr. Poilievre, last word to you.
I actually agree with these two gentlemen. I had a rule that at all my rallies, even when they're really big, I would stand in front of a flag and greet every single person and hear their stories and learn their struggles. And that was always touching to me, that they would put their faith in me or in any of us.
Yeah.
But we've been in such a rush because we have to get off to the next event, so we haven't been able to stop and do that. And I want you to know out there, I haven't forgot about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. It is time now for closing statements. And prior to the debate, we drew lots as to which order we would go in. And Mr. Singh, you get the first word on a closing statement.
Certainly, thank you. Because you voted for New Democrats, we were able to build this country that we love. Universal health care and pensions, because you voted for us. Because you voted for New Democrats, we were able to fight to bring in dental care, pharmacare, and childcare. Because you voted for us, because you supported us. You have the power with your vote to send more New Democrats to Ottawa, to continue that fight, to make sure that no government cuts the things that we hold dear, like our health care, to ensure that we can do everything possible to make life more affordable by making it more affordable to buy your groceries and to get a home. I'm asking for your support in this election so that I can continue to fight to defend the things that make Canada, Canada, the things that we hold dear, the things that make us proud to be Canadian.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Mr. Carney.
We are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. Donald Trump is trying to fundamentally change the world economy, the trading system. But really what he's trying to do to Canada, he's trying to break us so the U.S. can own us. They want our land, they want our resources, they want our water, they want our country.
Water?
We're all
They've already got the water.
Against Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Donald Trump.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I've managed crises over the years.
Yeah.
I've built strong economies.
Crises of liberals making.
We will fight back with counterterrorism. We will protect our workers.
I'm not getting ahead of myself.
Economy. We will build Canada strong.
This son of a bitch just lost the election.
The honor of doing so.
Thank you.
For
No,
260 years and a little bit more, les Français, devenus des Canadiens, devenus des Canadiens français, devenus des Québécois.
They became Quebecers.
You have tried to have them become Canadians like all Canadians. But to no avail, we are different. So let's be economic partners.
Yeah, you're different.
Let's
you
have
re-elected
a
that
voice chosen
piece of
by
shit
and
tyrant.
for
Go fuck yourself.
Quebecers
You
and ally
I like
for
you, but go
Canadians
fuck yourself.
as equals in front of Mr. Trump.
Monsieur Poilievre.
You're not equals. You're
Only
not
in
equals.
Canada
You never will be equals.
Did
Understand.
someone start where I began and get to this stage? I was born to a single mother and adopted by school teachers who raised me to believe in the incredible Canadian promise that anyone who worked hard could do anything. That promise feels broken today. Many of you worried about paying your bills, feeding your families, or ever even owning a home. You're worried your kids are in danger. But I'm here to say it doesn't have to be this way. With change, we can restore the Canadian promise so that hard work gets you a beautiful house on a safe street under a proud flag. We can do it with hope for a change.
Gentlemen, thank you for a very spirited debate tonight. 2 quick points before we go. Number one, One of you celebrated your 60th birthday yesterday on this stage. François Blanchet, bon anniversaire.
Merci beaucoup.
Secondly, you'll notice we didn't have to change the time of this debate because the Leafs already clinched the Atlantic Division title, and therefore we didn't need to move the debate to accommodate a hockey game. I'm getting back at my colleague who was in this position last night, and okay, go Habs go, that's fine. With that, we're done. Thank you, leaders, for being here tonight. We are just 11 days from Election Day, April 28th, but there are many ways that you can cast your ballot starting tomorrow at advanced polls. If you intend to vote by mail, that deadline is April 22nd. Make sure to check your voter card for details or contact Elections Canada. This is your democratic right, and we hope you use it. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Steve Paikin. Good night from Montreal.
Steve Paikin. All right, I'm going to read through some of the chats.
I have some questions for you.
Yeah, dude, hold on a second. I'll bring this out. I just need to get it. Let me just see what happens. Maybe we get a hot mic. Oh, Jagmeet Singh saying, sorry, I'm such a mentally deficient idiot. Mark Carter's like, good one there. You really fucked me hard. And now he's going to say, well, I'm done. That's it. All right, thanks. Enjoy the Parliament. Thanks for your thumbs up. You'll be in my cabinet. Yeah, thank you. Call me. Blanchet, well done, sir. You really represented Quebec and only Quebec, but that's what you're there for. We got that guy. Oh, hey, well done, sir. I'm told. Oh, he's going to give him his laptop. Sorry, that last, I'm telling you that the moment that we witnessed is the DMV election. And it's not because I like Pierre. And Jugmeat's like, what the hell? Oh, that's right. I just shit on everybody and everyone leaves me here alone. I'm just going to leave. Oh, thumbs up to my team? Nope. Oh, well, my team's gone. So what do I do here? Well, you got a nice, just look there and just talk to people. Oh, just walk off. Oh, look at that. Just kick your heels. Good for him. Jagmeet Singh's got big feet. His feet are at least a size 10.5. Everyone Google the size of Jagmeet Singh's feet. I guarantee you it's 10.5. And now we're done. You want to know why I know what his size of the feet was? I used to sell shoes. Holy crab apples. For the last 10 minutes, dude, Jack Dorsey.
Do you think 10.5 is a big shoe?
Well, how tall are you, sir?
Mine are 13s.
Shut your face. Are you 6'3"?
I am. That's exactly my height.
So I used to sell shoes. So that's a normal size for a 6'3". Do you know how tall I am in Cryptus?
5'6".
Yes, no, 5'5.5". Do you know what size my foot is?
That would be 8.5.
Yeah, if my wiener were small, no, it's a 9.5. I'm a size 9.5 with a wide foot. I'm sorry, it's so stupid. Like nobody cares about this. In Cryptus, the culmination, the climax of that entire debate was worth the entire however many hours of suffering.
So there's a couple questions I have. So you got very excited at a few different parts of this. Now, I understood with eating gruesome balls, at one part, I actually had some respect for him. I had lost all my respect throughout the last 2 days of this. I had a little bit more than you have.
I saw you fighting with Steve Britton in our locals community.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I care. It's all fun and games.
No. Yeah, no. And I still love Steve. No worries. My issue.
So I made a video yesterday on Geeks and Gamers with Roman Reigns, who's probably the biggest name in WWE. And he did an interview with Vanity Fair, and he made the comments that he supports President Trump. And the gender... confused weirdos have been losing their minds over this because they were all fans of Roman Reigns, and then they had to denounce Roman Reigns when they found out that he supports President Trump. So they were crying. They were saying it was their personal 9/11. They were just, the meltdown was glorious. I covered it over on Geeks and Gamers. And I mean, that adds to the list of, I mean, first of all, Donald Trump is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame, 6'3", 224 pounds. He could be the champion right now, but he's making America great again. He's friends with the McMahon family. Triple H is friends with him. Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Kane is obviously a politician and friends with Donald Trump. And now Roman Reigns has said that he is supporting. So what I'm hoping is, that they basically turn the WWE into the UFC. That would be my favorite thing ever if they do that. So we'll talk about that here in just a bit. Also, I'm wearing my Mario hoodie because I made a video yesterday on Geeks and Gamers, and somebody commented and they said, I can't take you seriously if you're wearing a Mario hoodie. So I said, okay, I'll fucking keep wearing it. So I'll just keep wearing it. I don't give a shit. I don't care if you're that mentally weak where you need me to wear whatever fucking shirt that you want me to wear. So I'll just wear the Mario hoodie now. And Brock, with 50 gifted memberships to start the party off. Let's fucking go. Brock in the house. 50 gifted memberships. Swig of water for the working man. There we go, baby. Thank you. Don't forget to hydrate, as Brock always says. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Comics Dad becomes a new member as well. What's up, Comics Dad? Good to see you here, brother. Thank you, Brock. 50 freaking gifted memberships before the show even starts. AOE2 Freak says, hey, Jeremy. Hail, Jeremy in chat. I never liked wrestling, but for some reason, I enjoy your show like wrestling people. Hey, I hear you, man. Wrestling is pure entertainment. I don't think the product is as good as it used to be, as someone that's watched it for a long time. But, we're not going to spend too much time on wrestling here on Cobra Cast, but might as well just kind of show you what the story is right now, because this is the story right here. Boom. If I could share my screen, there we go. So here's the story. Donald Trump will make an appearance at WrestleMania. He may have an in-ring role during one of the matches. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There's no way Trump is going to have an in-ring role. There's no freaking way. All right? I mean, dude, this is a hell of a way to sell WrestleMania, okay? This is a hell of a way. So, again, let me repeat. Geeks and Gamers Locals. You can watch it with us. If you're interested, come on over there. We're going to be live Saturday and Sunday over there. Supporters will be able to watch WrestleMania Watch Party with us. So, I don't know, man. So, this is right here. The reports about Trump visiting Las Vegas for WrestleMania weekend appear to have been sparked by a comment from the Pat McAfee show. But a local law enforcement source says there are currently no plans for enhanced security for a presidential visit. Here's what Pat McAfee said.
The tribal commander-in-chief has the Olafala, I believe, in Washington, D.C. That thing, I think, is on a private plane heading over here to Las Vegas. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen.
You see, so when Pat McAfee said that, he acted like, oh shit, I wasn't supposed to say that. You know what I mean?
Tribal commander-in-chief has the Olafala, I believe, in Washington, D.C. That thing, I think, is on a private plane heading over here to Las Vegas. Joining us now. Now,
a little backstory to that is, so when this whole thing happened yesterday, let me see if I can find it. When this whole thing happened with Roman Reigns yesterday, these people were freaking the fuck out, okay? So, the Ulafala, it's a whole thing with the tribal chief and all of that. So, hours after it was reported that Roman Reigns was a Trump supporter, Donald Trump gets presented with the Ulafala hours after Roman Reigns' article releases. This is President Trump, dude. This dude. Trump is a freaking master troll, dude. And of course, this is a wrestling account right here. This guy right here covers wrestling. So he's the one that tweeted this out. Like, dude, man, this has nothing to do with Roman. They are freaking out, man. Like, these people, the disrespect is real. It's so good, man. Oh. So we'll see what happens, but what I do know is it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be entertaining. We got John freaking Murdoch for 50. So sent you a super chat on FNT, but you had to leave. Glad you did a cover cast tonight. I feel like I took my shot and missed miserably. Hail the 199. Not true, John. You sent a $50 super chat on Friday Night Tights. I saw it come through, and you said... you said something to the effect of, because Jeremy's here, hailed Friday Night Tights, hailed the 199. I did see your super chat, John Murdoch. Thank you, sir. I watched the chat, man. The chat was cracking me up during Friday Night Tights tonight, man. I was in tears. The chat was like laughing at Chris Gore, because Chris Gore had his sunglasses on and he basically looked like he was passed out. And the chat was amazing. So thank you. And thank you, John Murdoch. Appreciate you, brother. Charlie Thompson says, just to let you know, Undertaker and Cody Rhodes just came to Fortnite skins. Are we getting a gaming stream coming back? Yeah, I have. I've played a little bit of Fortnite, just off not like streaming it. But yeah, I plan on getting back on the gaming streams. Hopefully, I would do it this weekend if I wasn't covering WrestleMania this weekend. Now, that's not to say maybe tomorrow night after WrestleMania, we could run some Fortnite. I'll see. But yes, 100%, I want to get back on to some gaming streams, playing Fortnite and Black Ops 6. So that is certainly the plan. Chad Layton for 10 says, holy crap, I finally made it to a live show. Only had to take the day off. LOL, worth it. Happy Friday to one and all. Thank you, Chad Layton. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Let me see. DL says, question. Do we get to refer to Snape as the HNIC now? Man, the whole Snape thing is absolutely like, that we're going to be eating good over on Geeks and Gamers as we get closer to that one. We're going to be eating good. That's all I can say about that one. So, gaming channel dead. Sad, says Dirk Mathers. It is dead. I haven't streamed on that channel since January. Holy shit, has it really been since January? Black Snape moan, absolutely. Tommy says Jeremy reimburses all super chats with a bonus. Trust me, I make a good amount of money off this I.Fig. Hey, go for it. Has it really been since January? Holy shit. All right. I mean, listen, I'm a smart businessman. You know, CobraCast makes more money than the gaming streams. That's just the reality of the situation, okay? I'm a smart businessman. Little Orphan Funkhauser says, no meetup stream this year. What the fuck is Beardo good for? No, I told him it was my call. I basically told Beardo, instead of worrying about streaming, I wanted him to just make sure he, got time to meet and shake hands with everybody. As much as I felt like we would probably get a lot of super chats on a stream and it would have been good for a lot of people, and I wanted to, since I wasn't there and we were really short-handed from a Geeks and Gamers standpoint, I wanted to make sure that the people that were there got a good experience with the few G&G people that were there. So instead of us putting the resources into, streaming, and I wanted Beer to be able to meet as many people as he could, and, have Steph and Ryan and everybody else. These people spend a lot of money to come to these events, and I obviously couldn't because of family obligations. And so I do apologize that I couldn't be there. And but yeah, it's just I have too much on my plate. I couldn't get away. So I hope everybody had fun, though. I hope everybody had fun. Indy Eye says Isaac is gay. Heroic Kitten says, imagine if Trump does a tag team match with Secret Service. Giggles and Bits says, did you see the Werner Herzog clip where he gushes about WWE? He loves it. I hope it's not AI, LOL. Probably AI. Gonna go out on a limb and say that. Gerald Armstrong says, WWE is doing the Hall of Fame ceremony at 1 a.m. Eastern. This is some crazy shit. It is weird times for that one right there. Okay, we have a video to check out from your guys' favorite person. You guys ready? But it's an interesting discussion that he's having. We're talking about Stephen A. Smith, but guess who Stephen A. Smith is interviewing? He's interviewing Steve Bannon. We got to listen to it. It's Steve Bannon. I got to hear what Steve Bannon has to say to Stephen A. Smith.
Host of the Conservative War Room podcast. He is also a man that has been on the record on several occasions endorsing circumventing the 22nd Amendment for Donald Trump to receive a third term in office, okay? That is why I wanted to talk to my next guest. Mr. Steve Bannon is on the show with yours truly. How are you, sir? How's everything? Thank you for being on.
Doing fine, Stephen A. Thanks for having me. Honored.
Now, explain to me, Steve Bannon, how you can, with a straight face, sit back and say Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated as president of the United States in January of 2029. He's going to win the election in 2028 when the 22nd Amendment clearly states no one shall serve more than 2 terms. Could you talk about that, please?
I mean, maybe you're a little scared, Stephen A. I mean, you know, because I'm sure you don't want to go up against the Don. So maybe Stephen A. is a little bit scared of that. Listen, I 100% believe that Trump intends to run for a third term. I absolutely believe it.
The Constitution says, Stephen, that on President Trump's Article 2 powers, that he's Chief Executive Officer of the U.S. government, he's Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States government, Chief Magistrate. And I think, as I count coming on your show, that I think there's 150 lawsuits in federal court by various organizations affiliated with the Democratic Party, the NGOs, or actually members of the Democratic Party, suing President Trump on his Article 2 powers that are clearly delineated in the Constitution. So the Constitution is open for interpretation. I have never said, and the people I'm working with have never said, we're trying to amend the Constitution. We think that there are a number of legal workarounds of that, and we're working on that, and we'll probably present it to the public sometime either right before the 22 midterms or shortly thereafter when most people will be jumping in the race for the 2028 nominations for the parties. And so this is something I'm absolutely convinced of, and I tell folks, I said, look, when I first I'd known Trump for a couple of years. When I first started watching him as a politician act, and really as early as May of 2014, when I saw him go to these cattle calls in Iowa and in New Hampshire, and I told people, I was running Breitbart at the time, and I told people, I said, that guy's going to win the Republican primary, and he's going to be the next president of the United States. People laughed in my face, and he was polling at 0. In fact, he polled at 0 up for the next year, all the way up right before he ran. He was still in distant 7th or 8th place before he announced that day on January 2015, which would come up the 10-year anniversary. In 2021, when he had the second election stolen, he went back to Mar-a-Lago. The odds were along there. People laughed in my face.
I have no doubt that I don't want to say that Trump is behind this discussion with Bannon, but he certainly could shut it down if he wanted to. He would certainly pick up the phone and say, Steve, stop talking about this nonsense right now. But he clearly doesn't want that to happen because they're laying the framework for whatever it is they plan on doing. So while he's not speaking for President Trump, I don't think, clearly Trump has no problem with him putting this out there and continuing this discussion.
Fox News did not show him live for 2 years. So I tell folks, I say, folks, I have had Trump's back and been involved with people early on when the odds were so much longer than we have now of actually working through different alternatives to make sure he's on the ballot, and he will be elected president of the United States. And on the 20th of January in the afternoon of 2029, President Trump will be in the White House as winning his 4th election and serving his 3rd term.
I'm doing this for my sole enjoyment, this clip that I'm about to bring up, because I watch Bill Maher's show all the time, Real Time with Bill Maher. I loved seeing you on there last week. I love seeing what he had to say in the aftermath of his visit to the White House to meet with Trump. But this is you and him interacting with one another about this very subject. I'll ask my next question after I show this to you again. Take it away, guys.
Here it is, the Constitution. Can I read a passage to you? Amendment 22, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's, maybe you should have this.
Oh, wait. I'll get you to sign it backstage underline. President Trump didn't bring up running for a 3rd term. Myself and others brought up running for a 3rd term. President Trump is going to run for a 3rd term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
Why did I bring that up, Steve Bannon? I'm going to tell you why. Because the key thing that I peeled from that was you saying that President Trump didn't say this. He didn't ask for this. You guys were the ones that initiated it. What is this fixation on him? I see J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I mean, I like how I do like how they suddenly do. Who said that? Insufficient funds. Wait, now they respect the Constitution? Yeah, exactly. Like, the problem here is we got to be real about what's going on. Donald Trump was nearly killed last year in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then, what was it, a few months later or a few weeks later, they tried it again. And I promise you there have been other attempts that we don't even know about that are not on record. So we're talking, what? Are we talking 5, 10 that we, that could be out there, even more? If Trump gets killed last year, do you know how different not only this country looks, but the entire world looks? Why? Because the Democrats have proven that they do not play by the rules. They're not interested in the rules. They're not interested in facts. They're not interested in reality. And they will make up whatever delusions they want to believe in, and they will force you to do it. Look at me right now. I am not a type of person that wants to self-censor anything I say. I don't like censoring it. I like to say whatever the hell I want to say. Just like most of you, whether I'm online or whether I'm in my day-to-day life. But I have to self-censor myself because of fucking weirdos that don't even know what fucking gender they are. Because they've fucking just destroyed like any sense of reality that we have. So we have to pick safe words for these fucking retards. Thank goodness retard is back. Why do we have to do that? Why do I have to pick words to make sure that they don't upset you? I don't give a fuck about you. I don't care about your fucking pronouns. But I have to self-censor myself because of what the Democrats and the left have done to our society and our culture. And they've been doing this for decades. They've been building these foundations for decades. And if it wasn't for Donald Trump, Lord knows, I don't know where we would be right now, but it would be at a good place. Never in my life would you have ever convinced me that they would shut the entire world down for years over the flu. And they were successful at it. They did it. They pulled it off. It was the fucking flu. I'm not a medical expert. Again, this is the dumb bullshit I have to say because of the leftist narrative. I have to say that me sitting here in a fucking Mario hoodie with video games surrounding me, I'm not a fucking medical expert. Why do I have to say that? If you're too stupid to realize that I'm not a medical expert wearing a fucking Mario hoodie, I can't help you in life. But I have to make those qualifiers. Why? Because I have to appeal to stupid people because the left has said that I have to do that. It's absolutely insane. But this is the world that we're living in. And if there's no one else, like, I appreciate J.D. Vance. I really like J.D. Vance. And do I think J.D. Vance could be a great president? Absolutely. Donald Trump is a once-in-a-lifetime personality and individual. It's going to take someone like that to continue to build this foundation. That's the truth. So, I mean, I don't like opening Pandora's box. I don't like that if we're going to open this thing up of like, well, if Trump can run for more than 2 terms, what does that mean, you know, with Democrats? How are they going to do this? I get that. I really do. But if Trump doesn't stay in office, if Trump doesn't win again, I don't know what happens to this country. Look how quickly, after Trump's first term, look how quickly look how quickly Barack Obama in his 3rd term. We're not supposed to say that that's Barack Obama's 3rd term, right? Everybody knows it was Barack Obama's 3rd term. 100% was Barack Obama's 3rd term. And look at how much damage they did in such a short period of time. What are we going to look like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Don't know. But it's something to think about.
The Vice President of the United States, last time I checked, he probably governed the same way Trump is governing. We see Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State. He's been a senator for quite some time. He knows what the hell he's doing. There's a plethora of other individuals within the GOP that could definitely fill those shoes. What's the fixation on Donald Trump, sir?
Stephen, look, there's a lot of good folks out there that could be president and do an okay job. But it's an individual like Trump. Let's be specific about this. When he had the election stolen from him in 2020, he went back to Mar-a-Lago, and he made that decision.
Mr. Beautiful says, am I cute? No, you look like you look gay.
Those really dark days of January, February, and March. He understood that if he was to come back and not just sit in Mar-a-Lago and buy more golf courses and get into open rota in the United Kingdom, or get some of those courses in the PGA tournaments and the U.S. Open rota here in the United States and enjoy a big book deal and hang out with Melania and the family, he understood at the time that if he came back and came and ran for president again, not just the Republican establishment, but that the apparatus would try to put him in prison. The apparatus would try to bankrupt him.
You hear this? This is a key part right here. He's talking about with Trump. After 2020, Trump had to assess what he was going to put himself through. Like, going through what he has gone through, I don't think we appreciate it enough. Like, it's really unbelievable how much they've thrown at this guy, and he just continues to stand above it all.
At the time that if he came back and came and ran for president again, not just the Republican establishment, but that the apparatus would try to put him in prison. The apparatus would try to bankrupt him. The apparatus would eventually try to assassinate him. He made it's the most courageous political move in the history of this country. If you take John Kennedy's Profiles in Courage, you read it and add it all up and triple it, that's 1/10 of the moral clarity and courage that President Trump had to say, I'm going to come back, because if I don't come back and do this and win and take the country back and take it back, get it back on the constitutional republic it should be, understanding what happened and then looking what happened in the 4 years, the country's finished. This is why President Trump, most countries don't have something like Trump in their entire history. We've been very fortunate to have General Washington at the founding of the nation, President Lincoln at the rebirth of the nation, and now President Trump at the rejuvenation of this country. And that's why a man like that comes along every 100 years. We got to get all the squeeze out of the lemon. We have to have this guy's back. We want him there as long as possible, and we're going to find legal methods to do it. And President Trump will be reelected and be back in the Oval Office.
Now, Steve Bannon, I'm not going to be some leftist constantly, just drilling in this point, but you do know everyone says, the election wasn't stolen, that you lost fair and square in 2020. The inordinate amount of lawsuits that were thrown out there, even the courts dismissed it, etc. Yet guys like yourself and others continue to say the election was stolen when others would argue that the facts say otherwise. Do you ever think about letting that go, particularly now that the man is back in office as the 47th president? and to avoid spewing such rhetoric, knowing that it just serves to continue to divide the country. What about that notion?
That's 100% bullshit. It doesn't divide the country. We are more unified than we have been in a long time because of President Trump and because of him standing tall. And as I said, go back and listen to what I said in the lead up to the 2024 election and through the primaries. I kept saying nothing matters but Trump getting back in office. Nothing. Nobody else matters, because if anyone else gets back in and gets into office on the Republican side, that's not Trump, then we lost, because we have to right the wrongs of 2020. We can't let them get away with what they did in 2020. We can't do it. We have to right the wrongs.